Okay, shalom, shalom, peace. My apologies. I put out something saying we were going to be late, and then I ended up being later than late. But we out here. And prayerfully, everybody can see me as best they can. I got a interesting setup for today, so prayerfully, everybody be able to see me fine, hear me all right. My apologies about yesterday. I mean, well, my apologies about yesterday. I was going to attempt to try and make it through, but we had a storm and it wasn't really safe to leave the campground. Even if I had made it out of the campground, then we still would have had a storm situation. We'd be trying to give you a live session in the presence of a storm. So it worked out where we just did what we did. We got still have very windy and stuff, but we should have our set up today to where you can't. It's not affecting you that much, anyways. Can everybody see and hear me all right? Yes, no, maybe so. Prayerfully you can. Oh, I still got to go back. Okay, yes, sir. All right, thank you, big brother, thank you, all of y'all, thank you, brother Keith. Alrighty, so we're gonna just let you listen to the background. I can't face that way because of the wind, or else I'd let you guys see the water and all that. But I can't open up the wind that way. We got real bad wind and everything facing that way. That being said, though, I am going to. You guys are gonna pause for a second. Hold on one second. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so I just realized I gotta grab one last piece of equipment. Just one, but you guys can go ahead and sit back and listen to the background, I guess, as I go get it. Okay. All right, hold on, you guys. And I'm thankful. I'm gonna have to be very careful with my language. If you notice, I'm gonna have to dance around a few different things. They're trying their best all the time to try and make sure that they can take down more stuff or control more stuff, whatever they're trying to do. So I'm gonna be very careful with certain language that I'm saying. So just I'm gonna be speaking in code. Those of you who've been with us for a while, you know how that works, anyways. But we're gonna start our Exodus series in just a bit. Hashtag We Be the Nation Exodus series. We're gonna start that today. We were supposed to start it yesterday. Actually, all things work together for Taba. Because to be honest with you, kind of glad to a certain degree that things didn't work out yesterday because we have more time to go through the introduction. So we're gonna take our time with this and work our way into this slowly. Once again, prayerfully all is well with everybody. Thank you for being on with us, no matter if you're joining us live or later on. I'm very excited about this word. I don't know if I've ever done an Exodus teaching series altogether. So this is the first time. This might be I'm pretty sure this is the first time that I've done this for Exodus as a whole, as far as prepared to teach and preach until we finish line upon line, precept upon precept. There's a lot of different things that we're going to get out of this, so I'm excited about this journey and what we're doing. Excuse me. So I'm very excited about what the Most High is doing, and prayerfully everybody is prepared. We did about a shot last year, Genesis. So for those of you who were with us as part of that series, that's an excellent series that got us to a certain place and a certain thought process and everything. And so now we're getting into we finished Revelation. Now we're going back to Exodus, and all those work together, you know. But we're going to Exodus or Shemot. We'll discuss that and talk about more about what that means and everything through this journey. But prayerfully, everybody's ready to get started and get into it and dive much deeper into this word in Yahweh's will and His way. So I'm going to ask you guys just to be patient one more again. I am going to walk towards my vehicle real quick and grab. I'm trying to make sure if I don't have it. Yeah, I think I'm missing a charger from my device, and then we shall get started. I'm trying to see. Yeah, I got to go back. Okay, I shall return in just a little bit. Thank you for your patience. We'll get started in just a bit. Okay. All right. Thank you for your patience. Sorry about that. If y'all don't mind, lift me up in prayer. I'm having a doozy of a headache this rising. I think I didn't drink enough water the last couple of days. I am having time. All praise to the Most High, though. He's still with us, still here. Okay. Now my little setup trying to fall apart. Yahweh, thank you for being with us and thank you for taking over. Alrighty. Okay. I think we're ready. Alright, I gotta reset. My bad. YouTube family. Now the wind is probably affecting y'all. Let me get y'all squared away again. Where I had you. You gotta figure this out again. Hold on, y'all. New configuration here. I'm playing Tetris this rising. Okay, all right. I think we get ready to go no matter what. we got to go with what we got. All praises to the Most High. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We'll do our best. All right. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yehovah's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao, namaste, osayana kitaboya, Ohio, hasi, minut, mugwan, kamsamida, aloha, ciao, ensemble, privet, guten tag, habarigani, akwaba, madaase, etese, jambo, bimini kofi de faraku katana lewewe, boker tov, boker tav, greetings, grand rising salutations, welcome, grand rising, I think I said. Bakwarta, Barakalat Shemihava, and I equal headed to servants of Christ. Mashalam Khe, Rayashan Shalom, Shalom, everybody, peace. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voices and speaking the unspoken. Tadach, thank you for being with us and dealing with my setup, or just dealing with my inconsistency, whatever it was this rising, right? But thank you, and we're excited and grateful for another opportunity to come before you one more again. And we are going into the book of Exodus in the same way we've done other books, epistles, letters, scrolls, Bible books, etc. in times past. We are going to do, which book is it? The book of Exodus, Shemot, right? We're going to do that for it in its entirety, from Exodus chapter 1 in the beginning all the way through the end of Exodus chapter 40. So we got quite a bit of stuff to go. We're going to do an introduction today. We're going to take a while with the introduction. Holy Spirit, have your way. And prayerfully everybody's doing well. So if you'd like to turn with me in your Bibles to Exodus chapter 1, verse 1 is where we'll start. And as I'm finishing setting up as far as making sure bare minimum we got these chargers going and everything, I will try to welcome everybody in as best I can, as best I can see you. My apologies, y'all. You have to just give me a little bit. I'm moving a little slow today, but I am all right. Just tired. Got a headache, a little bit of a headache. Okay. All righty. So thank you for being on once again. We appreciate you. Everybody said they pretty much should be able to see us fine. So we thank you so much. And we honor you. And we're going to get started. All praises. So, so we're going to go to Exodus chapter 1 and verse 1. Once you have that, say, Aman, I got it. I'm with you. I'm listening. We shall turn there together and getting that word together. And we'll get ready to say our Bible pledge. Exodus chapter 1, verse 1 is where we be starting today. All right, I see some of mine's got it. All right, and let's give greetings and then let's get into this word. Praise Yah, it is Sunday, and even though we don't do this because of Sunday worship or anything, but because it is Sunday, y'all get to see I messed up in my buttons because it is Sunday. We do go longer because we have more time. What am I doing? Sorry, y'all. Y'all gonna have to see. Y'all just gonna have to see behind the scenes today. I'm getting there, but I am not. I don't have it together today at all. But anyway, we're gonna go to Exodus chapter 1, verse 1. And we'll get ready to say our Bible pledge and jump in. All right, so let's say shalom to everybody and get started. How you doing, Brother Keith? How you doing, Elder Tamara, Sister Barbara, Easy, Sister Allison, Sister Carla, Brother Dwayne, Money Green, Culture Prospect. Let's see. Sister Mignon, Jeremy, Kilo, Brother Darius, Akuta Vadach, Sister Shima, Sister Regina, Sister Monique, Sister Shirley, Elder Amazon. How you doing, babe? My wife is on the Honorable Alma. As always, check her out on TikTok, YouTube, and her website at Bloom and Flourish. Thank you, babe, for being on. Love you very much. How you doing, Minister Elishava? How you doing, Brother Yachasav? Sister Donna, Minister Stephen, Sister Jennifer, Joyful Spirit, Sister Mignon, Holy Spirit filled, welcome back. Double OG, Triple OG, Lottie Dottie and Uri Body. I think I said Sister Shirley. If not, please forgive me. Muhammad, Big Brother Thomas, Sister Donna, Slayer, Castle, Nick, Vic, Charles Davis, Tony, Granny Spitfire. Okay. Then once again, if I miss anybody, charge it here, not here. Chava to all. Love you all very, 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 very much. All right. Okay, we got it together now. All praises. We got it together now. So we got everything we need. You're straight. We'll get started. Okay. Give me a second. Alrighty. All praise to the Most High. Go ahead and start with clean hands. Then we'll get it in. I just realized I just picked up this water on the way over here. And we just bought water last night. I bought a bunch of it because we got it on sale. And I'm sitting up here getting water. Anyways. Alrighty. All praises. Let's go. If you want, you can put your right hand, your Bible, or your device in the air and just repeat after me. This is my Bible. This is my sword. And this will I trust. For Yechashua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible. And this is Yah's word. Hashem Yechava. Aman. With Yechava Shem. His name is authority. Let it be done unto us. Exodus. Chapter 1. New series. Exodus. Chapter 1. Starting at verse 1. And it reads as follows. It reads as follows. Now, these are the names of the children of Yechadashah, which came into Kemet. Every man and his household came with Jacob. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. Dan, Naphtali, Gad, at Asher. Right? Verse 5. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls. For Yasav was in Kemet already. So Joseph, we'll get to that, sorry, excuse me. Verse 6. And Joseph died, Yasav died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty. And the land was filled with them. Now there arose up a new king over Kemet, which knew not Yasav, knew not Joseph. Right? This is going to be important that we catch this. And he said unto his people, Chanai, pay attention. He said, behold, the nation of the children of Israel are more mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore, they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them, with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. They built for them two cities, two treasure cities, right? Two cities, you might even say cities that might as well be considered to be like a capital of sorts. Their names in modern is Pithom and Ramses. Modern English or modern talk today would say Pithom and Ramses. Verse 12, but the more they afflicted them, so you got to see who it's talking about. The more they afflicted them, Exodus 1:12 says what? The more that our people were afflicted, the more we multiplied and grew. And they were grieved. And who was grieved? Kemet, the persons who had us in bondage, they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And those in Kemet made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. And they made their lives bitter and with hard bondage in mortar and in brick and in all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. I'm on it. We'll end there today. Exodus chapter 1, verses 1 through 14 is what we just read. May Yahweh Barak those who read it this, hear it this, and keep it this. You may be seated to go back to what you're doing in the presence of the Most High Yah. Tadah. Toda family. Toda Mishkapa. Thank you, everybody, for being on. Right? So today is the introduction. And in this introduction, it is my responsibility given by Holy Spirit today, and I take this very seriously. It is my responsibility to make sure that we recognize what we're about to get into and why Exodus even exists. What is the point of Exodus? Right? Like Badashat is in beginning, so we know that's in beginning. But what is the point of Exodus? Now we'll go into what Exodus means either tomorrow or maybe even when we come back, or maybe even later on this week. However, Holy Spirit has a schedule, right? But watch this. Why is it that? And really, what I'm really asking, if we want to go in depth, right? The question I'm really asking, which is really not a question, it's just something to get you to begin to think a little differently. Why is it that we were enslaved, and why did we even need an exodus? Why did we need an exit? Why did we need to come out of this system? A system that supposedly everybody's supposed to be one. Everybody's supposed to come together, right? Hey, they say, why do you call yourself a Black American or a Latino American or African American when everybody's an American? Well, we went through that already. How you doing, Sister Beth? How you doing, Minister Raj? Come on, right? Why do you call yourself a Spanish American? We went through that already. How you doing, Brother Thomas? And there's a reason why we needed to go through an exodus or get out of a place, right? See, the exodus for 40 years is a continuation of an exit plan, right? Right, really, what we're going to get into in Leviticus and Numbers and Deuteronomy, if you continue to read in your word, right? But what you're going to see is that, how you doing, Sister Kimberly? All praises to you. Hopefully you and the family are doing well, right? Saw baby girl just did a prom, right? I don't know if I said anything to you all about it. Tell her I said congratulations, and prayerfully she gonna be obedient, be in the way, and do what she's supposed to, and let y'all protect her. I know that y'all imparted into her what she needs, so it's up to her to do what she needs to do. And tell baby boy, tell MJ that we said shalom too. It's been a little while, right? Or was it prom, or was it something? Was it her dressed up? Somebody was dressed up in your family. I know I saw some picture. Anyways, I'm turning into Unc before people's eyes more and more every day. I swear I am. Okay, all right. How you doing? Is it Valerie? Valerie Harrison, thanks for being part of the community. Yeah, I swear I saw. Didn't I see that girl? Yeah, that girl right there. Yeah, you tell someone so. I swear. But that's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be family. You're gonna have to grow up with me, even being pastor, whatever it is. It is what it is. You got to deal with me now. You've been here too long. You're gonna have to watch me grow into my purpose. All right. But real talk. We're sorry. Exodus is telling us not only why about us exiting. Exodus is telling us why we even needed, how we even got here in the first place. Right now, if you remember from the Badashat series, if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say Badashat, I'm talking about Genesis. Oh yeah, well, I didn't see the last short. I tried to watch it. Something happened yesterday. Oh, signal was messed up yesterday, but I'm gonna catch it. How you doing, Quinn? And all these different things, right, that we speaking on. It's the reality is that we really need to recognize that Exodus is taking us from the end by the shot from the end of Genesis. So Exodus is focused in on not only us exiting, it focuses on how we exited. It focuses on who was used to help us to exit. It focuses on getting us out and being able to worship. It focuses on the slavery we went through. It also focuses in on family. Because remember, this is not for everybody. So when I mention certain things, how you doing, Bruder Richard? There's going to be some things that I will not say they will go over a person's heads necessarily, but there will be some things that will be mentioned here from time to time, and you might not catch it, or you might not because of not thinking about things culturally. You'll be like, stuff doesn't matter. For example, there's a big difference between Moses being put down the Nile River and Moses being placed in the Nile River. Right? We're going to look at the word differently when we look at it properly. Oh, well, sorry. I knew this was going to happen. My greatness. I got a little wind thing here set up, and I guess I didn't set it up properly. Now all my equipment's falling. But, anyways, y'all give me a second. Sorry. My greatness. I mean, one little move, I got too comfortable. Just about burned the house down. Now y'all can probably hear the wind. I messed around and touched my little wind guard setup, and I knocked everything over. All right, hold on. This must be a great word. Everything in this month will try to stop us today. Might have to reset behind the truck. This thing is trying to pick up the very thing it's not supposed to be. Yeah. What they say, you're always in a storm, you're coming out of a storm, or you're going into one. Today is literal. You take that quite literally today. All right, I might have to sit like this. All right, as long as y'all can see and hear me, I'm fine. I'll do what I got to do. But this word is gonna go forth. It's too much. Too much richness and fatness in this word today. We're gonna have to let this word come through. Is the wind, now that I got this back up, can you guys hear me without the wind? You guys can't pick up the wind? Okay, all right. All right, so we're gonna leave it. I'm gonna reset. I keep having to reset. I'm gonna reset again, as long as I keep y'all behind my little makeshift wind guard. You can see the wind on me, but as long as you can't hear it, at least hear it that badly, or that much. I swear I checked the weather. I swear I did. Okay, all right. I'm not sure if all platform. Well, I know one platform. Well, okay, sorry. I got to be careful. I can't even mention that, or else they're gonna limit how many persons see us. Okay, all right. You hear clearly? Okay, all right. So I'm gonna just have to sit like this. That's okay. I'm cool. I'm trying to move my drinks over so I can actually get some water if necessary. Sorry. Okay. They took my little wind guard down. All right. Okay. So where we at? How you doing, Sister Valerie? 37 degrees. Where you at? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. I forget where they. The temperature yesterday was crazy, crazy cold. But anyways, all right. So we'll deal with it for now. And if I get a chance to reset, then we'll reset. But as long as everybody can see and hear me, we're doing all right. Okay. So so where was I at? Oh yeah. So Exodus is talking about not just our exiting. It's not just talking about a bad time. It's not just talking about one thing. It's not just talking about Moses, but it's a continued thing for a group, a family, and it's talking about even how we lost our ability to worship. There's a lot of things that we're going to get out of Exodus, but there's a few things we're going to focus in on today. All right. There's going to be a few things. There's going to be quite a few things, obviously, throughout the series we'll focus on, but there's a couple main things, if you will, that I really. My greatness. Sorry, y'all. This is. Oh wow. Mm, okay. I don't know. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. I'm gonna have to. Give me a second. Hey. All right. I guess we're gonna have to dwindle it down. I'm gonna have to. I'm still here, y'all. Just give me a second. We're gonna just have to do what we can. Can't do everything. All right. Okay. So prayerfully, I'll be able to correct some things in a bit. Prayerfully, we got the shield going where you guys are all right. It shouldn't hear too much stuff as far as the wing. I'll try to get the rest of us that we're dealing with some stuff that we just lost. Hopefully, we'll get them back. Okay. All right. So, anyways, um, so what was I doing? What was I saying? So basically, when we're talking about this, when we're talking about, it's not just talking about our exit, but we need to know why we even got in the situation in the first place and why we need to exit. There's a few key things that pop up in here that are very necessary for us to catch. Right? There's a few things that we should catch right away contextually. Right? Quite a few things. And if we're not careful, we'll miss it. So we want to make sure that we catch these things properly and that we know what's going on. So when we hear certain things in the scripture today, I want us to really focus and pay attention. My greatness. Okay. I want us to really focus and pay attention when we hear a few of these things today. All right. And forgive me, I'm almost there. I gotta get the Bible app going again. Everything's a fight right now. But when we get to Exodus chapter 1, there's a few things that we have to make sure that we really pay attention to. And I apologize because, as you guys can see, by the way, things are kind of hectic here now all of a sudden. So also, too, that means that I might not see all your comments. So forgive me if I don't see your comments. I'm going to just do the best I can, all right? Prayerfully, we'll be able to fix things in a little bit. All right. So I need you to recognize first thing first in here in chapter 1 that there's something that takes place that if we're not careful, we'll miss. I'm going to start at verse 6. We'll work our way back some, but first, I want to do this properly. I'm going to start at verse 6. Right? I want to start at verse 6. Right? Verse 6 specifically. Where are we starting? Exodus chapter 1, verse 6. I want to go back there real quick and I'm going to read and I want you to see why it is that we even ended up in captivity. Right? It was disobedience. And we don't think about the disobedience within there, but it was disobedience already. How you doing, Oldie? Thanks for being on with us. Right? So it was disobedience that already leads us to this place. Right? Because if you know what happens in Genesis 48, 49, 50, Israel was where it was in the land of his fathers. He was there with where Isaac was and where Abraham was. Abraham had left the land of his father with the language of his forefathers that his father had tried to get rid of, and with the scrolls of his fathers, and with the belief system of his fathers, and it connected back to Yah, and it planted himself in what we call Canaan. Right? Abraham is living in Canaan. Isaac is living in Canaan. Jacob stays in Canaan until it's time for him to go back and get married. Then go get married. He goes to where Abraham used to live. Then comes back, or I'm sorry, where Rebecca's from, which is where Abraham used to live. He goes there and finds, gets married, and then is sent back by the Most High, being gone after 20 years to where the Most High met him at Bethel, which is actually where where the Most High has now promised him land. And so now he's living at Bethel. That's where he's been living. Joseph, through his brothers, ends up getting sold into slavery. Right? Joseph gets sold into slavery. Joseph then loses connection with who he is, so much so that that the Bible declares that his father Israel, Jacob, Israel, when he finds him, says, "Hey, you and your children were so separated from culture." He actually says, "I adopt your children, my grandchildren, Joseph's children." Israel says, "I adopt them in to the fold." How you doing, Sister Deja? Thanks for being part of the community. Awesome. He says, "I adopt them into the fold." So that they can basically become Israel and they can get what they should have gotten the whole time. So he and then if you recall, Israel only came over to visit his son Joseph. Joseph was second in command of all of Israel, which, by the way, that was Yah's will. It helped even his brothers to stick around. What Joseph does, though, is he says, "I want you guys to live here with me." Israel does not want this. He does not desire this. However, Israel even allows it and even dies in Kemet. But he forces, he makes his son, he makes Joseph promise him, "Hey, make sure I'm buried back where I'm supposed to be." And so where Israel is buried, that area, right? And by the way, Bethel is where heaven meets earth. That was the Jacob's ladder dream, Genesis 28. So he's buried there specifically, intentionally, on purpose, right? As a promise and something that he wanted to do. But everybody else stays in the land of Goshen. They stay in the land of Goshen because as long as they're there, Joseph being second in command, right? So all those things are going on, right? So keep that in the back of your mind as we get ready to go through this now. Exodus chapter 1, verse 6. And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. So all of Joseph's brothers died, right? And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. Verse 7. And the children of Israel were fruitful, and increased abundantly, and multiplied, and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them. Okay, now here's the part that a lot of persons miss. How you doing, Brother Thomas? How you doing, Sister Sheila? Here's where a lot of persons miss, okay? It says, watch this, verse 8, now there arose up a new Pharaoh over Kemet, over Mizraim, which knew not Joseph. Right? So in other words, Joseph, not just his name, but his family, his lineage, and the positioning that he had, therefore the position that Israel has, is thought of to be at this vaulted and vaunted place, right? This authoritative space, and we're growing and growing, right? And we're keeping the faith. If persons marry from Kemet into us and they become Israel, Israel is growing mighty and strong from just 70 souls that made their way over when Joseph was found to be alive, to now all of a sudden, we're getting to a place where you can't number us. We're getting increasing abundantly. We're multiplying. We're waxing exceeding mighty. That means that we're not just around. We're strong, right? We're not just in. We don't just happen to be in the land. Like you can't separate us or make us down to be nothing or whatever. Like we're strong. We're mighty. Anan. Like the Most High is with us. We're not just random. We're not just doing something that random, whatever. Like no, we are strong, a strong people. We are a strong people, right? We are an amazing people. We're a united people, right? We believe in the word of Yah. We still worship who we worship. We live separate from Kemet. We might be in Kemet, but we're not of Kemet, right? And so somebody sees this, and it's a new king, a new Pharaoh. Right, you got to catch that, and if you pay attention even to what's going to happen now in this space, if you pay attention and you're doing the timeline, you'll see that at this time there was in fact a new Pharaoh. Now, when there's a new Pharaoh, it's not just saying, "Oh, a new Pharaoh didn't know Joseph." It's talking about lineage. It's talking about family. See, once again, we got to break this down correctly. This word is not for everybody. Not everybody's going to accept it or get it because a lot of persons don't want to look at it within that context properly, right? But this is not just talking about a random situation. They're talking about a family lineage. They're talking about a handshake agreement, if you will, between Joseph and the Pharaoh of his day, right? And Joseph and the Pharaoh of his day, and he was second in command. And the Pharaoh of his day said, "Well, you know what? Bring your family over here. And the way that we love on you, we'll love on them, right? And give them the land of Goshen because we don't really rock with shepherds like that. But go ahead, have your own land, and you guys can have all this stuff. We'll have our things. You still will be in great service, all that stuff." So you're dealing with a family dynamic. You're dealing with a covenant, if you will. But then there's a new king or a new Pharaoh that comes into place. And what you'll discover is this new king, right? This new Pharaoh was like, wait a minute, these persons are out of pocket. In their mind. Now, why did they consider us to be out of pocket? Or really just consider us not even out of pocket to be a threat? Well, let's keep on going. So there was verse 8, there was a new Pharaoh that rose over in Kemet, which knew not Joseph, was not intimate, didn't have a relationship, or didn't think about the covenant. And he said, this is what he said. He said, come on. I'm sorry, and he said unto his people, he said unto his nation, he said unto Mizraim, he said, yo, pay attention, behold, the nation, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. We had gotten to a place to where we were over there and we were more than them. Right? In other words, we became a threat. All right. Now, you need to catch this because Revelation that we just came out of talks a lot about Kemet, doesn't it? Talks a lot about the plagues. Talks a lot about bondage. It talks about Babylon and Greece and Rome and all that, of course, too. Yeah. But it talks a lot about Kemet. And the reason it does is because it's because it's trying to get you to comprehend the same way we were dealing with stuff back then. It's going to be similar to the way that we feeling doing now. That's right. That's right. They fear what they might do, what we might do, as they fear today. You know, all the stuff when we talk about things and persons say, why are you always talking about this? Or why you want to talk about color? Or why do you talk about racism and stuff? I don't really talk about it that often. But when I do, yeah, it's something that we should not shy away from. And I'm not afraid to talk about it. And the reason I'm not afraid to talk about it is because there's real stuff to it, right? There's real things that are going on. And one of the things that we don't talk about is, hey, it was okay to do to us whatever you wanted, right? As long as you had control. See, right, but one of the reasons why you control, one of the reasons why you manipulate, one of the reasons why you went looking for the Negro, right? Recall, the Negro is different. A lot of you think that Negro or Negro means black, but it didn't mean black. You were swarthy if you were Negro, but you were swarthy if you were Igbo, which, by the way, they're Negroes too, a lot of them. You were swarthy if you were African, because not all Africans were considered to be Negro. You could even have Negroid features. Didn't mean that you were a Negro. So you had to know how the language was used back then. So a lot of persons believe that we're just going through some stuff. We're just trying to talk mess again, and we're trying to get everybody to be anti this and anti that and hate each other. No. Like, I need you to understand. I need you to recognize fully. I need you to comprehend fully what's actually happening, what's actually going on here, is that you're dealing with a nation. If you don't know, if you do some research, go back and look at Spain, Portugal. Portugal, by the way, it's always interesting to talk about England and stuff like that in America. Portugal was knocking persons out the frame. The Dutch, right? Knocking persons out the frame concerning slavery, chattel slavery specifically, right? But we have to talk about the fact that, hey, when we began to outnumber persons, when you can't outnumber somebody, how do you control them? I know we don't want to have conversations. See, it's gonna get. I know it's right from the jump. It's the introduction, but it is what it is. We might as well put our, instead of dipping the toe, might as well dive in. I know it's cold, but you might as well just cannonball in. Okay, right? And if you can't swim, it's only 5 feet. You can work it out. Get on them toes and work your way out to the 4 feet and the 3 feet. All right, you might as well just jump in. It's going to shock you. You know, if you get in water, until your face goes in the water. I'm really bad about this myself, but you know, until you jump into the water and put your face in, it's going to be cold. You got to get your face in. You got to get your head in there. Once you get your head in there, your body's going to say, "Oh, okay, whatever's going on, we need to be ready for it," and it'll take over. So we might as well just jump all the way in, because the same people who needed Exodus back then are the same people. Come on, somebody. The same nation, the same children of Israel, not the Israelis, the same children of Israel who needed to be separated, who needed to go to worship. Remember that what was asked at first was not even that we be freed. The first thing that was asked was, could we go to worship? And if you don't see that, and you got to recognize, the first thing to do is when you're becoming strong and you overtake persons and you worship how you're called to worship through your culture and context and cultural prism, it is a threat to a society that says that whoever they put on the throne is who you should worship. Oh, don't miss it. See, it sounds like I'm talking about today because in essence we are. It's the same tactic of the enemy, of the adversary, of the accuser of the brethren. Come on, right? They put a pharaoh on a throne, and you think that this is some new thing. But back then, see, we were promised things back then. We were promised acres and a mule back then. We were promised to go ahead and be allowed to worship back then. We were promised to do what the Most High said back then. But all you got to do is have a new regime, a new king, a new pharaoh sit upon the throne. And all he has to say is, well, I know what covenant they said they had, but I don't accept it. And once they don't accept it, they can do whatever they want. Something like once they accept it, they can go ahead and, change the laws concerning making sure that they protect your rights to vote. They don't care how many persons are down in the Mississippi River right now because they were trying to vote. They don't care. They don't care about Fannie Lou. Well, who's Fannie Lou made of them? That's not their covenant, is it? I mean, it should be, but why would they honor it? You're getting too strong. You've been doing too much marching. And I'm not even trying to say that in a bad way. I'm talking about how the enemy says. You've been marching too much. You've been saying too much. You've been talking about Yahweh. If you're not that, you've been talking about Yahweh. If you haven't been doing that, you've been talking about Yahuwah. If you haven't been doing that, you've been talking about Yahusha. If you haven't been doing that, you've been talking about Yahushua. If you haven't been doing that, you've been talking about Yeshua. If you haven't been doing that, you've been talking about Yahweh. If you haven't been talking about, you've been talking about Yahashua. You've been doing too much. Your worship is getting together. See, I wish persons got this. I'll hear persons all the time say some stuff, and they'd be like, see, that's why your problem is the white man. Somebody did that on, what was it, Thursday, Friday, one of the Q&A days. Oh, well, I want to tell me this. Who taught us the Bible? Right? Why is it what did the white man introduce to us as the Bible? And I'm like, bro, before there was such thing as somebody being called white, the Bible was being used and written and being produced by persons who you would call today black, or at least a POC. How you doing, Sister Beck? Sister Donna? Right? Brother Abram, if you're there. We got to recognize the same people, even by DNA, look it up. The same, so when they do this weird thing, you'll always hear, oh, well, we know that slaves never built the temples, the pyramids. The pyramids were only built by the artisans and only built by the masons and only built by, and it's like, bruh, come on, stop. We know. They put on the wall, they put on in the hieroglyphs, the words of the Netchers, they put up there that slaves were used to build these mighty cities. We know for a fact, matter of fact, and guess what? We know the DNA and the bone structure of the slaves that were used. And when you look at their DNA and their bone structure, guess who mimics them the most? That would be us. Like, we know for a fact. This is not something, see, I wish person, look up E1B1A. That's the male side. That's the paternal side. Look up L2, L3, L4. And yes, you could even throw in L0, L1, L5. Those are kind of like, could or could not be ones. But look up L2, L3, L4, and then look up what the so-called African-American man, African-American woman carry. The Caribbean man carries. The Caribbean families and the enslaved families that were brought over to places like even in England and places. What do they carry? I wonder. Probably very similar. Not probably, it is. If you didn't get the sarcasm that I'm using, it is. It's the same people. But they'll still keep trying to tell you. Till this day, they still out here. We know for a fact. No, you don't. It's on the walls. You know for a fact the opposite. And let's keep it a buck. You think that 50 dudes who were in charge at the time, 100, let's say there were 500, let's say there were 1,000 of them. You think 1,000 dudes by themselves were moving bricks, whole bricks and stuff? Or not even bricks yet, but I'm sorry. You thought that they were bringing limestone like that in that level? They were doing it by themselves. No help. They was just moving it. Because we're not talking about, see, it'd be one thing if it was a bunch of little pieces of stone they put together. No. They were moving entire slabs of limestone that have taken the thousands upon thousands to move, sometimes just one of them. And you believe they did that by themselves. And if you do some research, see, it's not even that. This is not even that hard for me. This is light work. Seriously, what I'm about to talk about, this is light work, and a lot of persons gonna get upset. Some of y'all getting off right now because you think I'm making. No, watch this. This is light work. You ready? It's not even that difficult to prove, or at least to show this part of it. You ready? Has anybody ever studied Ramses? Like, a lot of persons talk about Ramses. A lot of y'all only know about Ramses from movies, right? Especially from the Ten Commandments. There's a whole generation and generations that only know about it from the Ten Commandments, or only know about it from cartoon. What's the cartoon version that they made recently? Not recently, but I'm sorry, more recently than the Ten Commandments. That one with the cartoon where they sing "Deliver Us" and all that. How you doing, Jimmy Ferris? Thanks for being part of the community. Prince of Egypt. That's what it's called. Right? Most of y'all only learn about Ramses through that. If you study Ramses, Ramses erases quite a bit of history. Like, we know this for a fact. Any time that Ramses lost, Ramses would either say that he won and would erase the other side of it, and then we'd have to find out through other sources that we could trust, or Ramses would just outright say no, it was a tie. We know this for a fact. Shalom, Sister Greta. How you doing, Gospel Church? We know that for a fact. So whenever Ramses lost, and by the way, the persons who came up in dynasties after him did this. The Greeks, when they got in control, did this. The Arabic persons, when they got in control, they would literally cross things out, or file in stuff on the stone so that you couldn't see it anymore, basically erase it, and then they would put stuff in there. So we know this. We know this for a fact that Ramses did this. Now they have persons, by the way, there's this new thing. I saw a piece of it. I turned it off real quick because it was trash. Somebody's been trying to say that they found Moses, because Moses was, who Moses really was, and the real Moses body and stuff like that. But then they talked about him being somebody that was buried in Kemet as a leader, blah, blah. So we already know that's not the right person. Right, so we can throw that out, just in case. I don't know if you heard about that or saw that like I did, but it's foolishness already. That being said, though, yeah, we know for a fact that Ramses, every time he lost, erased everything about him losing. Just like they're doing now. Right? So much so that you don't even know about the Gullah Geechee Wars and the Seminole Wars and the Buffalo Soldiers, even though Buffalo Soldiers did some crazy stuff themselves too. We keep it about to Native Americans, right? But the Buffalo Soldiers, all that, we don't know who freed us on Juneteenth. That was you. You've been fighting a war for hundreds of years against the slave owners, and then gave up and said, well, Lincoln is the one that freed us, because not even Lincoln, but General Sherman, who hated us, but wanted to break the backs of the Confederacy and gave us 40 acres and a mule to do so. Then we signed up so much to want to be Americans that even though the 13th Amendment didn't say that slavery was over, just said you had to be arrested to become a slave, we signed up for the 14th Amendment real quick, gave back the 40 acres to just be called Americans instead of freedmen. Why still push what? I got a little bit of time, but I can't give you 15 minutes of fame, but I can give you 2-3 minutes, but you got to even be on point. People got to do what and enjoy life. Oh, so if you just don't believe in any higher power or anything like that, then what you want? Just go and enjoy your life. That's a quick one. That don't even make sense. Why are you on coming on person's stuff to be like, why are you on this? It seems like you have a miserable life. Go enjoy it then. You said a good soldier of Jesus Christ. Well, Jesus, means half man, half Zeus. Yehashua, which is his actual name, is a soldier, and make sure that they do a lot of things in privacy, including they don't get on this Christmas stuff, because that's of the world. We don't do Saturday and stuff like that, right? And they would make sure that they obey, the law, because even Christ tells you to do so. He says, no greater than the law greater than the scribes and the Pharisees. They wouldn't vote because we have a king, so you wouldn't vote, right? You said I seem to be confused? Then let me be confused. Thank you, moderators. Let me be confused then. Let me be confused and go enjoy your life. Take your own advice, right? You didn't even give yourself a minute of fame. You should have just went and chilled out, right? So yeah, but Jesus means half man, half Zeus. That's the actual name. And before somebody says it's just transliteration, no, Pegasus is the horse of Zeus. Dionysus is the son of Zeus. Dionysus is the daughter of Zeus. Perseus is the son of Zeus. Zeus means Zeus. So yes, Zeus isn't the transliteration, right? So yeah, we should honor him. If we're going to be great soldiers of the Messiah, we should be willing to, bare minimum, salute our general properly and make sure that we say his name. How you doing, Sister Deborah? So you see, so the same way today, the same way, the same people back then who were enslaved are the same people today who are dealing with the same thing. The same people who are in the midst. See, and here's the thing that persons forget. See, back then, Exodus is a process. Exodus is a process, beloved. You know, we're only thinking about exiting as far as getting out. But if your mind doesn't exit Kemet, then you're still a slave. How you doing, Minister Stephen? You don't believe me? Fine. Children of Israel exit Kemet. What do they do after they walk across the Sea of Reeds on land that is dry? Moses goes to make sure that he gets lost to help them out in their worship. And what do? Let's create our own nature. Not Elohim who let us out, but let us create a nature, right? This calf. This very nature that the Most High, through his plagues, has shown that he is over by letting their livestock deplete. Let us go back to that. Let us go back mentally when you've been freed and the enemy's coming for you, rather than trust the one that freed you. What do? You say, see, you brought us out here to die, Moses. We could have just been chilling and doing the same thing. We could have still been slaves. We could have still been making bricks without straw. Oh, when it's time to leave. See, I told you before, when you start getting into the culture, the Bible sounds like revolution, because you have to find what's in the world revolting. See, cats today sound exactly like they sounded back then. You came out of Greece, you came out of Rome, still talking about let us build up Jesus and let us worship the false image of Caesarea Borgia. Let us worship the false image of the beast and look for prophets that will tell us that persons are going to run all over the world today. Some have already gone to their services today. Persons are going to run all over the world to ensure that they go ahead and bow down to idols. And then when we say something different, they're going to say, sound like a revolutionary. You still on this? That's it. That's what the person was saying earlier. You still on this? In 2026, can't you chill out? I'm chilling out. Like, look. In this series, buckle up. All right, buckle up. This day number 1. You can see the enemy already didn't want us on this today. You can see everything in his mouth. It took forever in the day for me to even get over here, get set up, blah, blah. We've been dealing with stuff. You can see the wind guards being knocked out. I'm holding stuff together to make sure that the stuff stays together, right? I'm here to tell you, buckle up. Because this is strong. But we have to be honest about the slave mentality. The slave mentality deals with who you worship first. That's right. No weapon formed against us shall prosper. Every tongue that rises against us shall be condemned. This is my heritage. This is our heritage. This is who I am. Right? Now I need you to recognize this. The slave mind starts. If we're talking about chattel slavery, if we're talking about Kemetic slavery, if we're talking about Israelites being enslaved, if we're talking about modern Israelites being enslaved, whatever the case might be, right? If we're talking about the enslavement of the women that are forced into stuff sexually, the men forced, the children forced, the children being taken, slave labor happening over in United Arab Emirates or whatever it is called, right? All this different stuff. I'm here to tell you the mind, and even us who are supposedly free, but keep caping up for the persons who want you to be destitute and want you to be without insurance and want you to not eat real food and want you to not know who the Most High is and want you to believe not to have religion while then religiously be part of the Democrat or Republican Party. I'm trying to tell you that you are still attached. The biggest shackle that has not been released from our people as a whole is the shackle attached to your mind. And the thing that brings you out, as much as everybody wants to tell you that it's not true, I'm here to tell you, every country that has ever existed, I'm gonna say this again, because somebody been telling you lies. Allow me to reintroduce the truth, right? Okay? Every nation, what did I just say? Every You can try to debate this as much as you want. You're gonna lose this one. Every nation that has ever existed, I don't care how many persons are against what I'm about to say or not. This is the truth. Every nation that has ever existed worships, and every nation that's ever existed comes into power due to worship. There's a united, right? The first thing we're united on. I know you don't want to hear this. The first thing you're united on is who you worship. How you doing, Gene? Thanks for being part of the community. You can look back as far as you want. They keep trying to tell you all this stuff, and oh no, we had to evolve into having the thing of a God and all this stuff. Okay, fine. You keep looking back. Every time they find a culture, guess what they find? Worship. You tell me if you find something different. If you find something different, hey, you got me. But can anybody present to me anything other than the Greeks, right? Let's go through the seven heads real quick. We can go to others, but just let's go through the seven heads real quick. Kemet, did they worship? Yes. Okay. Assyrians, did they worship? Yeah. Okay. Babylonians, did they worship? I'm not saying worship the truth. I'm just talking about worship. Okay. True. Okay. Cool. The Persians, did they worship? Okay. Watch this. We not finished yet. What about the Greeks? Did they worship? Yes. The Romans, did they worship? Yes. Christians, mixing of iron and clay, or Judeo Christians, right? Do they worship? Okay. Matter of fact, see, you don't want to hear this, but if you are an atheist, you're trying your best to worship either the universe, worship, right, or worship yourself. Masons, do they worship? Yes. I mean, we can keep on going. Which country you want to bring up? Every country says some version of God bless themselves. God bless America. Worship. You can try and say, oh no, we want to protect and everybody should have their right. And look, yeah, in America, you should have your right to do whatever you want. But every single place built on worship. Yes, right. But what do you worship is the question. But every single place, all Native American nations to ever exist, guess what they did? See, now we'll try to change it because persons don't want to go. But every single Native American nation that existed, guess what they did? They worship. You might not like what Vodou and Voodoo brings about, right? I'm not with it myself. That being said, though, guess what they do? They worship. Mm. They might be trying to force persons to do it to an individual, but in North Korea, guess what they do? They worship. I'm just trying to help you out. So worship is not your problem because if those of you who are saying America needs to be the thing to lead everybody out, whether it's Democrat or Republican side or neutral or whatever it is, then guess what? You still are partaking in a nation that worships. Now the problem is the God that they worship is the one that is the God of racism. The God they worship is the God of is the God of what you guys try to call patriarchy, or even misandry that exists now. Not only a lot of the gods that you guys worship are gods of mythology that you wrote the pitch. You rewrote. Thomas Jefferson, right? If you've ever heard of a slave Bible, read the Jefferson Bible. Thomas Jefferson, if you get a chance to go to his former place or whatever, and you get to read some stuff up and go check out Monticello. And George Washington, did similar stuff, in his place in Virginia, and so all these other presidents that were there, slave owners that were there. But if you go to Thomas Jefferson's place in Monticello, he has something called the Jefferson Bible. They don't want to call it the Slave Bible. It's not exactly the same, even though there are different versions of the so-called Slave Bible. But Thomas Jefferson had the Jefferson Bible. If you read it, it's very well done as far as intellectually. He writes it in Greek. He writes it in French. He writes it in English, and he also writes it in Latin. But what he does is he takes all of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and then he throws out all the parts he doesn't like, and then he rewrites it, and then says, "This is who I believe Christ would have been." And and Thomas Jefferson is one of your gods. When you go down to Washington D.C. and you go to where his little humble memorial is, you will discover when you see him there that you'll basically see, um, you'll see it set up like a place where you worship. That's right. We should worship the Savior. Was for sure, right? How you doing, Sister Erica? Right? And we worship the oppressors. Have you not thought about the fact that everybody wants to take God out of schools, but nobody has a problem with him being on your money? And the persons that are on your money, who are they? Who do you worship? See, a lot of you don't think of that as worship. That's worship. You said, curse is the man who adds or takes away from the word. Yeah, Revelation chapter 22, verse 18. What am I adding or taking away? I know what these words mean. So before you hit me with this, in Exodus, are we talking about persons that had to exit and had to flee from oppressors and had to make sure that they were dealing with the Pharaoh who came in and had an agreement with them and then at the same time said, no, you know what? I'm going to take that. I don't recognize that. I'm a new dynasty. I'm a new Pharaoh. We'll go ahead and enslave them because they become too many. They become too strong. Have I added or taken anything away? Or are you just frustrated about the fact that I'm using the Bible correctly and that you don't get to be in charge of a narrative, or the persons that you worship or serve, at least bare minimum, don't get to add or take away? Because the word also tells us that Yeshua, or who you probably call Jesus, but Yeshua, our Messiah, he makes it a point to tell us that Elohim is a spirit, and they that worship him should worship him not only in Ravak or Ruach, which is spirit, but also in Amat, which is truth. So if we lie, are we saying it's okay to lie and therefore adding or taking away from what Christ said? Okay, maybe I'm assuming. Maybe that's not what you meant. Either way, though, it means what it is. So if I assume that I'll be the ASS, you know, maybe I assumed, right? But we shouldn't add or take anything away. I'm not sure where that came from. I guess we're just throwing out random scriptures then, or scriptures that aren't possibly there. So if you can help me, maybe like if you can help me a little bit, I could be off on that because I do deal with trolls. So maybe you're not one. Help me out by maybe being more specific to the topic, because if you're just throwing out random stuff, then I'm not going to know what you're talking about. So my bad, but maybe we can work together then. Because the only things I see on here from you, my apologies, is just I worship the Savior. I agreed with that. You came in while I was talking about what people worship, and so I think so I made a point to say, yeah, I agree with that, right? So I didn't start off. Hold on one second. I'm sorry, you all. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. You're gonna pause. Hold on one second. Oh, Thomas Jefferson. Okay, my apologies. Like I said, I could be off. Thank you, moderators. My bad. So my bad. Uh, sorry. Period. Right now, I am in a live session. Period. Is everything all right? Question mark. Okay. So my apologies. My bad. Thank you, Sister Shima, for the correction. Thank you, moderators. Okay. Yeah, and thank you, James. I see. All right. So, like I said, I can be wrong in that. That's why, once again, and the same way that moderators be defending, moderators also come in here and they correct. So I appreciate you for that. My apologies of the way reading. My apologize. My apologies. Right. My bad for assuming. So, no problem. Like I said, I'm wrong on that. I eat it. I can be wrong too. I am often wrong. I'm human being. All praises. Okay, I'm not one of them who just because I'm teaching I got to be right about everything. I promise I'm not. All right. So my apologies. I'll slow my roll. Today my brain's working a little different. Anyway, I'm a little tired, so I could have just seen something wrong. Anyways, where were we at? I'm sorry. How you doing, Sister Tabitha? What are we doing? What are we doing? Okay, so the Bible will sound like it's revolutionary because basically it will cause you, and I'm not saying grab your pitchforks and your torches, right? I'm not saying that, right? But that being said, it will cause you to dismiss things because you have to come out of the world. And the first way and the biggest way you come out of the world is worship. We're going to see that when we get later on in Exodus, because when Moses comes on the scene and he's sent back, you're going to discover that the first thing the Most High says is he doesn't ask for us to leave Kemet, right? Because we technically had covenant with Kemet, even if this Pharaoh didn't see. So Yah still honored the covenant between Joseph and the Pharaoh back then, and that had been used all this time as we were growing, right? As long as there was no disrespect, anything like that. But once this Pharaoh starts wilding out and everything, you'll see that we have a problem, right? This Pharaoh wilds out, we see that we had a problem, right? So later on, you're going to see us go through hundreds of years and all this stuff, and then after that, when Yah begins to bring us back, when Moses comes on the scene, Yahweh sends Moses with a message. The message is, allow my people to go worship. That's the first thing that's going to bring us out, is worship. Everybody worships. Every nation is built is upon worship. As much as everybody said, I was talking to a young brother. We, got a chance to see some family that's over near us, and so we went out the way a little bit and went to see them the other day. Had some nice conversation, broke bread and everything. And there's a guy who's going to be marrying into the family. At least hopefully that's what they're going to do. And but we were having a long discussion, and he was asking questions about the vision of what we have here and what we do, and even some of the stuff with like land project stuff and everything. And he was like, "Yeah, I see the vision." We were going through some stuff, and he was asking about certain things, and he said, "Yeah, well, does everybody have to?" He was like, "So I see it. I don't even think you guys are like a cult, and blah blah. The way I see you doing this stuff. But question, does everybody have to believe?" And I said, "Well, to be honest, to be fair, I was like, any city, any place you go to, nobody asks them if you have to obey the rules when you go." Right? Like, I was like, to be fair, I was like, yeah, there's going to be rules, there's going to be regulations, there's going to be laws, there's going to be private laws, there's going to be privacy, there's going to be things that we don't do in the public, there's going to be things that we have to ask of persons. We're going to ask for persons to help support things. We're not going to say you have to live here. We're going to say, but they're going to be while you're on the land or while you're doing certain things there. Yeah, of course we would ask for you to do blah blah. If you go right now, if you go over to like this has happened. What's his name? Johnny Somali, that fool who got arrested and then should have got jail time in one place, got off there, what was in Japan, and then went over to, was it Korea or something, and then tried to do the same thing, and they wasn't playing it or something like that, right? They got the brakes beat off him, and then he ended up got all these years where you got to be in a prison labor camp and all that. Oh, okay. Hey, Sis Michelle. Yeah, well, we're kind of going in between a few places, but at this moment, yeah, that's where I am. And how you doing? And hopefully you and your husband are doing well. And the babies, and the fur babies, and all that, right? By the way, somebody in Florida, I don't know if somebody can help me. Haven't been able to hear from a couple persons, especially Minister Tracy, even Minister Sismaila Ray, as much as usual. If somebody can let me know if you've heard from something, that'd be nice to hear as well, right? But you have to realize, yeah, without structure, there's chaos. But yeah, there's rules and regulations everywhere you go. It's always weird that everybody, like even in churches, that will say we're against the law, or they're against the law, against law. Against law. They should not do this, they should not do that, blah blah blah. And then and they don't have to follow this. But then if you go to their church, what do they have? They'll have a doctrine, right? If you go to their church, depending on which kind of church, of course, you might even see something where you got a hymnal, and in front of the hymnal, a lot of them, at least once a month, will do something to where they read their stuff together, right? Having been led as we believe, right? And then they'll put together this stuff. They have a whole bunch of stuff that they teach you. They say, this is what we do here, this is what we do here, blah, 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 because you're supposed to have structure. Matter of fact, a lot of them, especially nowadays, a lot of them are trusting LLCs. Yeah, like those who said we don't have to keep the 10. A lot of them are trusting LLCs. They have to do that by law. If you're going to get 501c3 money, guess what? You got to have all that stuff in order, and you got to touch and agree with whatever the person giving you the 501c3 says, or else you can't get 501c3 money. So, we're not doing that. But I'm just saying the way it's instructed. So it's always weird. Somebody would be like, well, Do I have to believe what you believe? I mean, you don't, I guess we can get into the semantics of some of the stuff here and there, but for real, why are you trying to come to somebody else's land or somebody else's nation, right? And you like, but we don't want to touch and agree with what y'all believe. That don't make sense. You get locked up if you go over. Look, you might not like. I'm not with it myself, but if you go to Thai and them lady boys or whatever they call them over there, you go to Thailand, you go to the Philippines, and you see that stuff, they let that stuff go. That stuff will be right in church, right in worship, right next to you because they don't see no difference. I won't say all of them do that, but there's a lot of them. Hey, they don't even see no difference. If you go over there and you start pleading the blood of Jesus and hitting everybody on their forehead and saying they this and that or whatever, you'll get locked up. It's not for me. However, I recognize if I go to that land, that's not what time they on. Right? You might not like it, but if you in the United States of America, you did all that stuff in the 60s and 50s and marching and people got killed and all that stuff is true. But here, you ain't got no protection of voting rights. You can be upset with it all you want. If you're going to live in the United States of America and you're going to keep on giving yourself to the system, just know that they don't care about your voting rights. They have never truly done so anyways, even if they were forced to put some stuff pen to paper so they could make some money. But then once the persons who are making money don't need it anymore, and once you no longer are that important enough to them to where they say, hey, we got more persons who consider themselves to be Latino than black, so we're going to go for that Latino vote. And a lot of them want to identify with us more than they want to identify with themselves anyway. So we're not worried about y'all anymore. As soon as they did that, they started changing their statutes again and denying what happened. And everybody says we're going to put this on. What's his face? I don't even be saying his name enough. Who's the Sambo spirit over there? Is it Clarence Thomas? Is that his name? Right? Whatever his name is. Everybody talking about him. There was still it was still gonna be 5-4, even if he voted for you. Too much leaven for sure. Right? So you have to recognize this system that you're trying to prop up and be like, oh yeah, this America, the modern America, the this and that, America, this, we're the reason why they did, we're the reason why we're truth, justice, in the American way. Show me. Shalom, Minister Morel, how you doing? Show me, fam. Where is the truth and justice in the American way for you, for my people? And if you say, well, if you make money, you won't have to worry about it, then that's a land you don't want to be part of. See, in the kingdom, right, is commonwealth. The kingdom is a commonwealth. If you're a true commonwealth, if you're a true kingdom, then whatever the poor do not have is supplied by those who have it. That's why I'm not into the stuff that person keep trying, even when they try to lie to you and tell you that because Ronald Reagan was holding the Bible all the time. I fell for that stuff when I was a little child. They used to tell us that all the time. Well, Ronald Reagan, he was a great president. He used to hold a Bible all the time. His wife was pious. I'm not even going to explain that today. Right? Those of you who know why I'm making that face for them too. George Bush was a great Bible believing stuff. He was an everyday man. George Bush, when he came into president, he had to give up ownership over the Texas Rangers. George Bush, he was a powerful. You said whose Bible was he holding? I mean, actually, they'd be holding that different Bible for that second inauguration, if you will. I'll leave that there, right? Because they already want me gone today. I'm gonna be better, but it's gonna be. Look, man, we just gonna have to. This might be the lowest seen. I don't know, lowest seen series we done in quite some time. We got our numbers pretty low before, but it is what it is. We gotta tell the truth. I see you. Is that how you wooed me? Right? How you doing, Aaron? I'm just saying. How you doing, Margot? I'm just saying it's gonna be rough because that's what this is about. This is about there was a promise that was made to Israel, and the promise. How you doing, Halle Berry? And the promise was broken. And when the promise to Israel was broken, right, the worship was taken. And when your worship is taken, you really enslaved at that point. That's what this is going to be about. This is Exodus is about our people getting back to worship. Eventually, it means we had to have a mass exodus towards being free. But that's what worship does. True worship allows freedom. Like I said, name the country that exists that doesn't worship. Come on, there you go. Of the way, right? There you go. I'm with you, right? How can you be free and you can't pray? How can you be free and you can't praise? How can you be free and you can't worship? Right? Watch this. How can your child be free and your child can't pray? Not in school. But they keep telling us that your child is free. That school is the place to where they're going to show your child how to be free as a free. How can your child be free? And none of y'all, when y'all went to school, I'm not talking about college. Maybe they did a little bit of this back in the day in home ec. I think in home ec we had like one class where we filled out a check, right? And I filled out a check because I used to fill out checks for my mom because of her multiple sclerosis. I used to help her when her fingers started acting up. I still didn't know anything about finances, though. When's the last time that they taught your child about finances, taught your child about public versus private, taught your child about how to, if you assume debt, how should you assume it? But really, that debt puts you in slavery, so you got to realize whatever you decide to go in debt to, you stuck there as far as being in that system. When's the last time that they made sure that your child understood? They taught your child to be a cog in the wheel. They teach your child enough stuff so that when they go and get a job, which means toil, so when they go to toil, whoever they toil for, the person can give them the same type of instructions. And the teachers, sorry teachers, because I know there's some great ones out there. We got a lot of teachers at SOC. But might I just be honest? What the system wants from the teacher is for you to show the child how to make sure that when their boss deals with them the way that you deal with them, that they'll react the same way. So much so that when you get a job as a slave in prison, see, those of you who get jobs in the world, prayerfully you at least know you're an indentured servant and you realize you're supposed to get something, have to deal at the end. A lot of persons don't even do that nowadays. You're supposed to go into something realizing that, hey, if I work for you for a certain amount of years, that's what indentured servitude is. If I work for you for a certain amount of years, I should be able to get something out the end. So if an Irish person comes over to the United States of America during the time of chattel slavery, and even at that time, some black folk would come over as indentured servants. They got rid of that real quick, though, because we started fighting together too much. And even some of the indentured servants started fighting with us even when we were slaves. That's why some of them got thrown in the same breeding grounds and stuff like that. That's why a lot of us got Irish in us. Right? That being said, though, if the indentured servant, if an Irish indentured servant came over, they're supposed to work a certain amount of years, and it's going to be crazy. It's going to be terrible. You just, hey, buckle up. But once you finish that, whatever's on that contract, then lawfully, whatever's promised to you, you're supposed to get. You're an indentured servant currently. Praise God. Right? Currently. I like that. Right? But a lot of persons don't even get that. A lot of you sign contracts and say, the most that you should be able to do is possibly get, a little bonus or something on the way out. Or if you work for 50, 60, 70 years, maybe down to 30, but 50, 60, 70 years, maybe they give you a gold watch and they'll give you a pension. Pensions are going out of style, by the way, too. Was Jacob? Yeah, Jacob technically is indentured servitude. Right? Really, it's a dowry. So he's using indentured servitude as his dowry. But yeah, that was indentured servitude. But remember, he kept changing the terms. He's supposed to work 7 years, and then what's his reward? Get married. Oh, wait a minute, no. Tricked you. That's not how we do it. You got to work 7 more years. And work 7 more years. Then he signs a contract again. Okay, look, I'll make sure this time I'll sweeten the pot. He almost worked 7 more years. He worked 6 years, and then finally said enough is enough. Right? But he worked 20 years. And basically Laban was trying to make a slave out of him. And eventually, if you recall, he went to Leah, Jacob goes to Leah and Rachel. And he's like, yo, I'm kind of sick and tired of your dad. And y'all was in on this too. Like, hey, we done. He's like, I'm out. We rolling out. Right? And they go their way. Right? But that's basically what it was supposed to be. It was, you could say, I guess it's both. I mean, it's indentured servitude, but really he's using it as a dowry. Like that's what that I love your daughter. I want to marry her. What do I have to do? If you work 7 years, right at the end of the completion, you're that you paid enough, right? And then and then he was, so basically he was trying to keep him enslaved, and then finally he had enough, and they rolled out and they left, right? Yeah, great question. So, but yeah, so in all these things that we're dealing with and dealing in, and as always, please check out Jacob's regeneration here at jacobslink.com. Um, and all the things that we were discussing and talking about, we have to we have to recognize that if you're going to come out of anything and you're going to come into a kingdom, if you're going to be born again, if you're going to born again, meaning you're going to leave the country you are, you're going to be born into another country, etc. You have to recognize and realize. On the seventh year, he's I mean, to a lesser jubilee. It's kind of called jubilee now. There was you're right. There's the 3 years, there's the 7 years, and then there's the 50 years, and that's something that we would do. But but the kingdom of Israel did not exist yet, so I'm not sure how much of a custom. I mean, it's a Syrian, or well, the original Syrians. It's a Syrian custom, which is who he's dealing with Laban and them, right? Those who are called Aramic, or now we try to call Aramaic. They're not the same people nowadays that they used to be, but the Aramaic or the Aramic people of then. That's that was probably a tradition they held to a certain degree, but I don't know if they called it jubilee or anything yet. But yeah, later in the law, it's very when it's because anything a king decrees is law, but when we get to the so-called Mosaic law, then it's nailed in place. Like you got to make sure 3 years, 7 years, and it's not even that you can't have a renewed contract, but it's basically like you can't hold somebody in debt, you can't enslave anybody, and they put that in order because once again, a lot of persons still had Kemetic mindsets. So if you still had a mindset of, it's kind of like Liberia, right? Those of you who know about the story, the history of Liberia, right? Monroeville, all that stuff. Liberia is in the situation it's in today, and all the stuff that's happened as far as genocide that's happened over hundreds of years now, is due to the fact that you put a bunch of persons together randomly, including persons who were thrown out of their territory and enslaved in Africa, persons that were enslaved in the United States of America, whatever. You throw them all in the same place and you say, have at it. Well, if they still are enslaved mentally and they believe in enslaving each other, then they'll kill each other, which is what happened. So, right, they'll try to enslave each other, and if they can't, then they'll just try to get power the way that they saw everybody else did. That's what they've been raised in now. So they're a whole country, but they're a country without any way of knowing what true management is, not getting back to the origins of things, right? So that was the same thing that would have happened with Israel. So that's why you see so many laws about slavery, because there were persons who still had minds to where they tried to enslave persons. And as much as I always hear a person talking about slavery, this and that or whatever, it's always interesting nobody talks about with this intention, because it's really indentured servitude, that there's limits on how long somebody can be in contracts, right? Because you can't enslave somebody just because they're a certain color or a certain phenotype or a certain nationality coming in, or because they're a stranger, or because of whatever. You can't enslave them just because. And you have only, and the contracts that you have, they can only be so long. Nobody ever talks about that. But that's our culture, right? Our culture is you should only be in these things for so long. And it's interesting that we live in a nation, right? Whatever your nation you live in, right? If you don't consider your nation to be the kingdom, of course, but if we're talking about public, whatever nation you live in, it's very interesting that they will say, you know what, we have no limits on how long you can be contracted to something, but you can get a divorce tomorrow. Meanwhile, in the kingdom, we say you should be contracted in marriage to death do you part, and in the kingdom, right, you should be contracted until death do you part, and in the kingdom, 3 7 years, and if somebody somehow finesses stuff, the longest you can be in something is 50 years, and that's not even for the person as much as it is for your family, right? That somebody can't connect you to some contract. They do that now, right? If y'all forbid, something were to happen to me today, and if there's any debt, which I'm pretty sure I don't really have any, you always got to check because somebody's always trying to use your name and likeness for something. But as far as I know, I don't have any debt, so I'm not a slave. But let's say I was in debt. Let's say it was $10,000 or something like that. Guess who would get that debt? My wife, my son, right? But that's not supposed to be something we do. That's why that woman, the woman in Second Kings 5 or Second Kings 4, whichever one that was about to sell her sons, that's a really sad situation. Because first of all, she shouldn't have been in it. Because we shouldn't be in a position where anybody's holding your debt that much to where when your husband died, especially when your husband was a priest, 'cause that's what he was. That'll preach. Somebody always trying to use your way in, like, for real, for real. Even the devil, right? That's what we're. See, you gonna you gonna be working, doing some research today, studying, getting ready for an evening. We could use that for an evening session. Oh, by the way, hopefully, prayerfully, we'll be back on track as far as for the evenings, starting on Monday. So that means on Monday through Friday, we're gonna do it on regular live sessions. So prayerfully, Monday through Friday next week will be us dealing with the 50 different. The 50 different things that we put together for our grafting sessions, which is what we call, what others might call their new members classes. So keep that in the back of your mind if you can. To join us, that'll be 8 p.m. We'll probably go like 8 p.m. to 9:15, 8 p.m. to 9:30, and we'll even try to put a phone number up to where if you guys want to, contact us and ask questions for us to go over specifically what we go over. We'll go over 10 things each session, and the elders, I'm gonna get to you guys. Again, we're gonna try to have you guys teach at least one or two things a couple of those nights. Alrighty, to get y'all to get started, to get y'all to get used to getting your feet wet with a little bit of that. Some rhema word there. I see. Is it in chattel slavery? They were born into it, passed down to the children. That's not kingdom. That's right. That's right. That's right. And by the way, even if you look at what is it, if you look at why the countries, the states, they're countries. That's what a state is. A state is a country. But the states, they're United States, but they're states, they're countries. When they started seceding from the Union, they started seceding because they said that slavery was something that their forefathers had written in, and technically they did write it into the Constitution. Definitely talked about in the Declaration of Independence. Excuse me. But they said that they believed that their founding fathers believed in slavery, and they believed that their God wanted slavery because they believed it was mutually beneficial, not only to the bond, which is the slave, but also it was mutually beneficial to the free, which was the slave owner. Tadach, thank you. How you doing, Sister Tabitha? Right. So there's some stuff there. So that's why when we talk about Exodus, Exodus is difficult to go into for many because a lot of persons just want to talk about going over the Red Sea, the Sea of Reeds. Maybe some persons want to talk about, Passover, right? Maybe even a few more persons want to talk about going into a place where you know the burning bush, all that stuff. But Exodus is talking about a people who have been enslaved and not allowed to worship. And when you're not allowed to worship, how you doing, Brother Nico? When you're not allowed to worship, you're gonna have a lot of problems. I think it's brother, right? Brother Nico. Yeah, your brother Nico. Excuse me. Right, Yasanma or NMA, right? So you have to be careful. And there's a lot of persons who are trying to get you away from worship. Every nation, I'll say it again, that has ever existed, has a national way of worshiping. And even nations that tell you they do not, look at what they do, you'll discover very quickly that they worship. Right? I'm not saying everybody has to be 100% on board, but when they say God bless America, they're talking about one God. Whatever their God is, he's talking about one of them. Some of them have multiple things that they worship, right? And that can be true, but you got to even figure out who they're talking about. You said Jesus is not God, Yahweh is not God. Well, God is a Germanic way of saying you can worship whatever you want. So technically, somebody could make it what they want it to be. That being said, if you're giving me the whole thing of that whole weird thing that once again like persons are getting into the Lord and talking about Baal and talking about this and talking about Elion, not even realize what Elion means properly and getting to all that stuff because that's not what it means. What y'all be saying. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm kind of tired out of talking about that every single live session, so I'm going to take a break from it today, if that's the best you got. Right? If we're talking about something else, maybe it could be entertained for 2 to 3 minutes. But I've got a bigger, more important thing to do than make an argument that is not even an argument. If you know how Alpha or if it actually goes, it's not even right. It's not even time for it. You believe in the Revelation 19 God. Well, once again, if you're telling him a God, God means that you say that he can be whatever you want him to be. Right? God and good are the same word. You're already messing up. So if we're going to this thing where you're trying to talk about proper names and proper etymology, you got to have proper names, proper etymology, and proper mindset to do that. Right? So we're already messing up number one. But if you're talking about the name that nobody knows, it doesn't say that nobody will ever know it. It says that it was unknown, and then it tells you what the name is. It tells you what the name is here and here. Same name. Right? Now, if you go back before that, you'll see that that same name is the name that's supposed to be on the foreheads. Yat Chivavche. The same name that you say is not supposed to be the same name, right? Now, if you want to talk about the stuff and stuff, you're kind of maybe even putting certain things that don't belong together, like Revelation chapter 2, the third assembly or the fourth assembly that's either Pergamos or Thyatira. I think it's the third assembly, Pergamos, where it says that you will have a new name on a clear or bright or brilliant stone. That nowadays you write it as just white, but as a white stone, whatever, you'll have a name that nobody will comprehend except you and the Most High. But we know what that name is, just like we know what the name 603 score and six is, and we know what the name 616 is. Same, it's the same thing in Greek and Hebrew. We know who that is. So when you keep saying that, like, it doesn't make sense. The Bible, including Revelation, tells us what the name is, which is the very name that you say is not his name. Now, the one that's on here and here, that's not. It's not the same name as Yahweh or Yehashivai. It says another name, but that just means in that context, right? If we go even the Greek or the Hebrew, because it was written in Hebrew first, then it's just talking about his authority. So even if you're going to say, okay, that's another name that you want to go by, okay, sure, but it doesn't mean the other names don't matter. And it's at the name of Yehashua that every knee will bow, things in earth, things under the earth, and things above the earth, and every tongue will confess, right? That that he is in fact Adon. So it's just you know like that's all I got time for. Like I said, so you slightly went a different way with it. I give you that, but it's getting us to the same place, right? All right, love you though. I appreciate you seriously if you're trying to actually get to the. And I'm sorry, that's not even the same person. So I didn't mean to come at you. I'm sorry. Who's that? Drew. So my fault, Drew. I thought it was the same person. So, but for the person that's so I put y'all together. My bad. But but the Jesus is not God thing. That's basically if you're headed anywhere towards that and anywhere you're going, it's just not it's not valuable. Right. Okay. Um. Yeah. So worship. Worship's important. So back to the word. Exodus chapter 1. We started reading at verse 6. I think we stopped at verse 9 just a little while ago. Hold me accountable if I'm off on that. Please hold me accountable. I believe we stopped at verse 9. Yeah, and he said unto, and the Pharaoh said unto the people of Kemet, he said, pay attention, behold, Chanai, the people of the children of Israel, more mightier than we. He said they're more mightier than we, right? Well, yeah, that's where we ended the reading. I think we read verses 1 through 14. But as far as where we ended before I got off on the worship and then some other stuff. How you doing, Sierra Landing? Thanks for being part of the community, right? So when we go to this place now, and we're talking about this stuff now. Let's go. Let's go. So the children of Israel were fruitful. Blah blah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So here we go. So now verse 8. Exodus 1:8. You see it says, now there arose a new king over Kemet, which knew not Joseph, and said unto his people, verse 9, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more mighty than we. Verse 10. Now this is what they did, and this is what they do still. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Are we frozen? You're saying we're frozen now? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Yes, no, maybe so? Okay. Yes? Okay, yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So watch this. All right, ta-da. Dedat my shipachin. Toda mishkapa. Thank you, fam. All right. So watch this. This is what they did back then. And pay attention because it's the same thing. Behold, this is what they say still to this day. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. Bueno, all right, gracias, mi hermana. Or mi hermano. Lo siento, mi hermano. Excuse me. Look at that again, verse 10. Come on, let us deal wisely with them. What? Lest they multiply. Beloved, this is what it's about. I'm trying to tell you. This is what if this right, if this Pharaoh didn't come to this conclusion, we don't have this conversation, do we? Right? I'm not just coming up with this to be anti whatever, to be against anybody, to say that they don't. No, no, no. I want you to catch this. What did the Pharaoh say? What did the Pharaoh say? He said, let's deal with this. Let's deal with these persons wisely, lest they multiply. Now look, we are already more than them. And see, this is one of the things that the enemy does still to this day. You were told that you are a minority. How are you a minority when you were the majority? I told you, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. That's okay. Person ain't going to like this one today. Right? It's okay. It's okay. You can be mad at me all you want. You really should be mad at the word. But you can be mad at me all you want. Right? Right? You can be mad at me all you want, but it's real. This the reason why the oppressor got mad is because we outnumbered them, and they said, "Hey, if we're not careful, they'll multiply." Meaning, if they we say this all the time, don't we? Person will come to us, "Oh, well, you guys, we got to go against them. What if they ever come against us? What if they're afraid we're going to do the same thing to them that they did to us?" That's not even what we're trying to do. We're trying to worship. We're trying to be righteous. We're trying to establish culture. We're trying to pass down this worship to generations. We're trying to get rid of generational curses. There's so much stuff on my docket list that defeating the oppressor is not one of them. You know why? Because the oppressor is already defeated. It does. Black's Law Dictionary does talk about the word minority is crazy. You go look that up if you never looked that up before. That's a great point, right? And that's one of the reasons why they call us that too. You know what? Like I've read that a while ago. I've never really talked about that before, but that's a great point. That's a great point, right? But they tell you the minority, not only that you're crazy, but they teach you, even if we want to go outside of law just for a second, and even outside of legalese for a second, they even teach you that you are less, because you got to be less than and everything. But how are you less? See, this is why once again you have to realize nationality don't care about where you are, or right, or where you come from. Nationality cares about who you are and who you come from. This is why one is born again. That is a legal, lawful act to say that, hey, I no longer belong to a nation. I belong to this one. Well, then you're being born again. You're being re-identified. Uh-oh. They're not ready for this today. They ain't gonna like this word today. Right? If one is born again, it means you can no longer belong to the nation you used to belong to. You have to be reclassified, re-identified. You know another way of saying something has been re-identified? To be redeemed. Did you know that? Some of you may not be aware of that. If you hear this term, if you ever hear the term when somebody talks about being redeemed, the word redeemed literally means that you are reclassified. You're re-identified. You're reconsidered. So if you deem something as something, what you're saying is, I consider something as something. That's why, so if I go into court and somebody says, are you black? In court, especially Western court, I will never be black. Because the public doesn't like black folk. That's law. However, if in the private and somebody says, are you black? Yeah, I'm black. But never in public. And we don't know how public and private. Some of you think, well, you're saying it now. Be careful. No. That's not how public and private works. Right? Matter of fact, watch this. Y'all be talking about you can say whatever you want. You can say whatever you want in the public, in certain public spaces, right? You have freedom of speech in certain public spaces. In certain, not in all, in certain public spaces, you have freedom of speech. In the private, your speech is governed. Once again, somebody come to me talking about, hey, well, I see the vision, Kofi, and blah blah. I don't think y'all are cope, but at the same time, I'll be honest, man, I can't really be up on there, and I have to believe what y'all believe. And I'm like, well, then you can't go nowhere. I showed up to your spot. Can I do whatever I want in your spot? If you told me to stop speaking about my belief, I'd stop speaking about it in your spot. Unless Holy Spirit told me something different, but I'm saying I'd be respectful. I can talk about the game and talk about blah blah whatever. You asked me what it is that I do. I told you what I did, and then I told you our belief, and I told you what we do, and you like it. But hey, if you saying can you come to my place and do whatever you want, just kick up your feet. You can kick up your feet to a certain degree, but you're gonna be respectful. That's right. There's boundaries are healthy. Cats out here trying to tell you otherwise. No, no, no. If you come into look, if you go into look, if you go from Washington D.C. into Virginia, there's certain laws that change just because you cross. If you buy certain things, or even people, because that whole Bureau of Investigation thing that became FBI thing that goes back to Jack Johnson, that's why Puffy got some of the years he got because of the thing that they were trying to hit Jack Johnson up for. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. That being said, right? If you cross state lines, you got to be careful. If you don't study, you sitting up here talking about that you can have certain extracurricular activities in one nation, in one country, or in one state. You cross state line, that might not be the case no more. You better learn. In one country, in one nation, in one state, you can take your belt off and commence to whoop it. In another nation, another country, you better only use the back of your hand, and it only better be on the buttocks, right? There's specific language, law. There's federal law, and there's state law. There's state citizens that can actually be non-citizen nationals, and then there's federal citizens who are not even real. They're legal fictions. Come on, there's sundown towns. You best believe that if I'm in a sundown town, I'm not gonna sit up there and pull my Bible up unless Holy Spirit tell me. And if so, I gotta be brave and whatever happen. And I gotta trust the Most High. But unless Holy Spirit come down and say, hey, you know these sundown towns, go ahead and stay in them overnight. Oh no, no, no. There's certain places. If I'm going off of what's that in Virginia? Is it 81? I think. If you going off 81, is you get around where I was talking about Monticello and all that stuff down around the Shenandoah area, however you pronounce that. Shenandoah, I always be messing that up. I love the song Shenandoah, but I be messing that up. Anyways, if you go to Shenandoah and you go there, whatever, you go to one of them caves, and you going blah blah, and you out there and it's 8 p.m. Oh, you better find a place to go. You better find a hotel, or you better make sure that you don't stop certain places. You can say your hush fire all you want. But over here, at a certain place, I don't know. They don't play that. There should be boundaries. Now, that's an unhealthy one, right? But I'm just saying, if you'll do all those things for boundaries everywhere else, then you should have boundaries for yourself and for your people. How you doing, Ray Ray? Thanks for being part of the community. You said renewing of the mind brings wing thoughts. Yeah. So I'm just saying. You can't. You got to realize worship is first. See, watch this. If you worship the Most High, guess what you'll never do. See, this is when we know y'all cats worship or not. We can make it real simple. If you worship the Most High as a husband, you'll never hit your wife. Because hitting your wife is not worship. If you worship the Most High, you'll never pour them hot grits on your husband. It's not funny, but right? But you'll never pour them hot grits on them, right? Because that's not worship. If you worship the Most High, you'll honor your mother and father. Because worship is extreme respect. Just surface level definition, just a quick working definition. It means extreme respect. And you can't worship the Most High and not obey His law. If you truly worship the Most High, right, then you'll never try to change the word or try to take away from it. And sorry again about my jumping to conclusions earlier. How you doing, Kilinia? Great, thanks for being on. Right, if you worship the Most High, you have to realize your worship will come. There's certain things that if you worship, you'll never do. The only time, matter of fact, if I'm sinning, I can't be in worship. That's why I have to repent. Because if I can't worship Him, I can't even see. Look, I can't approach the throne. How you gonna approach the throne, dirty and muddy and disgusting in sin, unclean self? Yeah, I mean that because I'm looking at me too. I don't see your face. I see me. I see your comments, but I don't see your face. I see my face. I can't be unclean, McGee, and then come up in front of y'all talking about what's worship. I did it for years, and it's amazing that the worship would even work, but it wouldn't work for me. It would work for others. I'd be sitting up there messing around doing crazy stuff. My marriage falling apart. My wife don't get no respect. My children acting up. Meanwhile, though, everybody coming to me, man, that word that you preach. Man, when you play that song, every time you play that song, man, there's an anointing on you. This and that. And I'm like, man, why can't I get this anointing? Because you ain't worshiping, bro. You're worshiping for somebody else. You're giving this stuff, you're giving them the piano and the music and all this stuff. So because their worship is sincere, you're feeling the movement, but you ain't getting nothing. You getting the goosebumps, right? But there ain't no gold coming out the goose. It's amazing how we'll mess that up. Worship is everything. Whatever you worship, look. We even told in Scripture, right? Let's see where your treasure is, because wherever your treasure is, that's where your heart is. The word heart there actually coming from lob, or if you want to talk about modern, be lev. But wherever your worship is, that's where your heart is. That's where your passion is. Wherever your heart is, that's where your passion is. If you're not passionate about this, then that's right. So wherever your heart is, that's where your treasure is. We can see. Somebody say, "Oh, I love this. I love this. I love." Okay, sure. Let's see where your treasure is. Let's see where your money. Let's see if your money is where your mouth is. You ain't got to be rich. You ain't got to be rich. I'm not rich, but my money where my mouth is, though. My investments is where my mouth is. If I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. If I say I'm gonna give to something, I say. If I say you should give to make sure your people have, then check to see if I give to my people. If I say we should have tithes, right, and offering and all this stuff, see if I tithe and give offering. If you say that you believe marriages should work, see how well you work in marriage. That's what worship does. Worship commit. Whoever you worship is you follow their law. Come on, somebody. If you worship, you follow the law. You follow the law, the one you worship, don't you? And see, the thing is that you've been worshiping false kings anyways, rather than worshiping the Most High. Elon Musk tell you something, and you worship him. And it's hard for you because you know what worship truly is. See, look, if you're a Republican or a Democrat, if Kamala was on the throne and she was doing jacked up stuff just like Biden was, and just like Obama was, all the Democrats would be silent or they would be defending him blindly, the same way that they defend Trump, the same way they defended Bush. The same way they defended Bush, same way Democrats acted like they didn't go ahead and support the whole super predator thing that Bill Clinton and them were doing and that Joe Biden supported, right? I give credit to Bernie because Bernie back then was saying y'all sound racist. He was right, right? So I give credit to him. But for real, right? Like they'll deny this stuff. But these cats, if you in that gang called the Democrat, listen to them. They be saying a lot of crazy stuff too. And because y'all are anti-Trump, y'all don't let them get away with a lot of anti-life rhetoric, a lot of anti-Bible sentiment. The same way that they sitting up there saying it was wrong that these pastors supported President Trump and prayed over him. They were wrong when they supported Biden. Biden is just as racist and told you so. Clinton went and he went to, what was it? And this ain't alleged. You can look this up. Clinton went, when he was running for president, he wasn't doing as well. He eventually won in like a landslide. But everybody was so messed up after Reagan and after Bush, right? H.W. Bush. Everybody was so messed up after him. And nobody wanted anything to do. Nobody was really trying to vote. White, black, Christian, whatever. Everybody was kind of like, y'all all jacked up. And then Clinton was like, okay, I guess he was starting to pick up steam, but it still wasn't. The bag wasn't secure. He might drop the bag. They were like, you need to secure the bag. He's like, how do we secure the bag? They said, well, society likes it when you kill black folk. He's like, word? I'm like, yeah. They like it when you kill black folk. He said, well, let me see. Oh, you know what? We got this guy who y'all would consider to be, and forgive me for using a term that's bad or whatever. This is what we called it back then. Forgive me. A person that was considered to be, well, I won't say the word. I'll say mentally R word. That's what we would call them back then. I'm not 100% sure what you call them today, because even that word in certain things, like I grew up playing classical music, and if you play classical music, we use that word to just talk about something slowing down. But so it's not even a bad thing. But that being said, whatever, right? I don't want to be whatever, but let's just say back then we would call them mentally R word, okay? And that dude may or may not have done what he did, but he was on death row. Clinton goes back to Arkansas, gives the command, take his life, and then gets back on there, and everybody says, "That's our guy." Where were all the Democrats to come against him? Where were all the black Democrats to come against him? I'm not a Republican or Democrat. I don't vote before somebody says that. I'm not a Sambo spirit. I'm not here to fight. I'm not Officer Tatum or any of them cats. I'm just saying, where were all the black Democrats back then to defend his honor and to say this was wrong and this and that or whatever? Ain't nobody say nothing. Because we were the ones that were supporting him on that warship when he said that we were super predators. Right? Everybody forget. It was us, a whole bunch of us. Remember, I was talking about that when I was talking about that the other day when I was saying, hey, we are the ones who put in place a whole bunch of this stuff that is allowed, right? Like a bunch of stuff that we look at now and say, this is bad, this person who's rapping, this person who makes decrees, this person who made a religion, this person did blah, blah. Usually we're the ones that have to back it up first. And we backed up. We were like, oh yeah, super predators, sign us up. Hey, he plays the saxophone. And he was terrible at the saxophone as a musician. I'm here to tell you, he was out of tune. It was disgusting. But hey, put him up there, right? He gave us a little jig so that we would go ahead and give him a jig for 8 years. His wife was a lawyer for a place that Coretta Scott King told us specifically, if anybody works for that company, they are a racist white supremacist. Coretta Scott King told us that about Hillary. And guess what Cat still did? Jumped at the chance. Because some of us that had a little more money or thought that we would be able to get a little more out the system. Right? And we can't sit there and then be hypocritical. Because if you don't like what the pastors did to ignore what Trump was doing, then you can't be mad at the pastors, or you can't deny then that the pastors who ignored what Obama was doing and still prayed over him. That's right, yeah, he played the sax. He played the sax. And like I said, that sax was terrible. Go back and listen to him, especially if you're a musician, right? Go back and listen to him play that sax. It's horrible. I'm not saying that he might have been better at one point. You get to do a certain thing, right? Then it is what it is. You don't practice anymore. I'm horrible. If you put a trumpet in front of my face now, I don't even know how much I can buzz. Right? For real, for real. I can give you a little bit, and it's gonna probably sound pretty bad. It's been years since I was playing, right? But that being said, I'm just saying, like, it was horrible. I remember like being a child because when he was running, I was just starting to get into music, and I was being told you had to play in tune. And I was like, how is it that he's not even in tune? I recall it. I recall as a child being like, how is it that I have to play a tune? And that's because that's all. I mean, I don't really know that much at the time. But to me, in my little childhood head and heart, I'm like, how come I as a child, like, fourth, fifth grade, had to play in tune, and he doesn't have to play in tune, and he's the president? Somebody make that was my childhood. That was my little childhood politics. It's like, how does he not play in tune, but I have to play in tune? But then everybody kept telling me he was a great guy, so I just started listening to all the comedians and all this, and they kept saying he was black because he's the closest thing to a black president we'd ever get. And then he was black because he was a weed smoking fornicator. I'm quoting that. That was Dave Chappelle killing him softly. He said he voted for him, right? Because when he looked at the other guy that was running against him, he said, the other guy didn't look like he like black children, like he looked like he kissed them. Go, ugh. But he said, but and I'm not gonna quote him exactly, but he said, uh, Clinton would just grab a black child and say, "Come here, little ninja baby," and kiss him. Mwah. And he was like, If you remember, you seen "Kill Him Softly," you know what I'm talking about. And I was like, and persons were helping persons to get voted in like that. And we sat back and we didn't say nothing. Now we want to talk about he was this. Now we want to talk about three strikes and you out. He did three strikes and you out right in your face. He told you were a super predator right in your face. Did it from the warship. I forget which warship it was. Did it from the warship. I've been on one of those before when Bush did that. But because he's a Democrat, you have to ignore that. And then later on, and watch this, when Hillary was running for president, he would, when Clinton would get challenged, he got challenged by black persons, a black sister, because we don't protect them at all. He got challenged. Beloved. The woman out the crowd said, "Hey, why is it that you allowed this? Why is it that you locked persons up?" And then what was his response? He said, "You know what? I did the right thing. These persons were doing what was wrong. They were doing this. They were doing that. And by the way, a whole bunch of your people signed up on it too. So you know what? It was right." See, they brought it back. He brought it back. He ran it back. He told the truth. He said, "Hey, y'all made this happen." Still denying the Epstein files. Come on. And when his wife was running and started saying, "Well, we were wrong about certain things. We need to revitalize it." Yeah, you were wrong the whole time. But your husband wasn't even saying that while you were running. That's part of the reason why nobody could trust you still. Exodus gonna be something else, boy. Because the same stuff that we're trying to support back then, the same stuff that got us enslaved back then, the same thing that caused us to not worship because we worshiping man and we worship making icons and we're making idols rather than worshiping the Most High and not following His will and His way. Worship. How you doing, Minister Smaila Ray? We got to catch up. I was just talking about you earlier. We got to catch up. So this is what they said in Exodus chapter 1, verse 10. Are you with me? You with me still? We still in Exodus chapter 1. We not done. It says that their Pharaoh, who was supposed to have contract, every Pharaoh up until him had covenant with us. He breaks covenant with us. Now, when he broke covenant with us, what do you think? Who do you think he broke covenant with? That's the game they play to get that money. Come on, hear me, somebody. When they broke covenant with us, who do you think they broke covenant with? See how important this worship is? So you got to know the power that you have, and you got to stop denying. See, some of you walk around with a form of Elohim, but you deny the power thereof. We're talking about the power today. Are you hearing me? We're talking about the power today. We're going to put some power on it. When they broke covenant with us, who did they break covenant with? So your enemies break covenant with the Most High when they break covenant with you. What they have to do after that, though, is make sure that you have no covenant yourself. See? But when we broke covenant, Israel said, "No, even when I die, take my body back." We said we're gonna try and get everything we can out of this, and cool. But there's a time, there's a limit, and ultimately we were supposed to go back, and we didn't. And then the oppressor got upset and broke covenant with us because they saw that the covenant, even though the covenant benefited them, but they didn't like the fact that, hey, we're growing, right, and we're growing and spreading out more than they are. How is it that y'all showed up with 70 persons and now there's more of y'all than there are of us? Now, nobody ever want to come to a conclusion. Maybe because we're doing something righteous. Maybe because we have covenant. Maybe because we're coming out. Maybe because we obey the word. Maybe because even if it was going to church, whatever. Maybe because we had a zealous. We were zealous for Elohim, even if it wasn't according to knowledge. But your oppressor will never see that. Your oppressor just says, "How come they're growing?" ¿Cómo está mi hermana? Sarah, gracias por tu presencia siempre. Right? The oppressor will just always say, "No, man, I can't believe it." Right? Remember, Christ said this. He said, "A prophet is not without honor, save in his own country." You can even go back to your own people and give them a word that they are astonished by. But the first thing they said about Christ when he gave that word was, they said, "How did he get that information?" So you got to be careful about the oppressor and those that have an oppressive spirit. See, if we talk about Exodus, this modern Exodus, which really is us coming together. The modern Exodus is about us coming together while going into the wilderness, while separating, coming back together as a nation, and now not separating from Kemet that has made it on all sides, right? Back then, we were a nation that was coming out of one place. Now we're a nation coming out of multiple places to come back to being one. We must recognize that the enemy hates us because we are growing, even when it doesn't make sense. How is it that we start off always as the 70 and then outnumber the enemy? That's a bar, Holy Spirit. How is it that we always start off as the 70 and somehow make our way to where we end up over the enemy? How do we always start off with so little and end up with so much? How do we always end up to where they say they'll never learn this stuff, and then we learn it and then learn it better than the oppressor? How? How you doing, Dr. Cyrus? How does this happen? Is there possibly some truth to the fact that you are the chosen children of Yah, and can't nobody take what belongs to you? He said we got to deal with them wisely, lest they multiply. And it come to pass, because if they multiply, this is what he said will happen. In their mindset, this is what the enemy thinks. Remember, this is what the Balaam doctrine was about. Grand Rising as well, my friend, right, my brother. This is what it's about. Khan, Aman, sister. This is what it's about, right? Like houseway. This is what it's about. In their mind, right? The Balaam doctrine, Numbers 22, 23, 24, but Numbers 22, and Balaam doctrine is warned. We're warned about it in Exodus chapter 2. Sorry, Revelation chapter 2, and verse 14. Balaam doctrine is when there was a prophet who they came to because they saw whatever he said always was righteous. And the persons who saw what was going on with Israel saw that Israel was walking around the wilderness, was constantly getting bigger and bigger and stronger. And they everything that the Most High said would happen, and anybody that came against us, they were getting wiped out. And so they went to the prophet and said, hey, we'll pay you to help us to come up with doctrine so that we can have something we can use to make these persons believe us rather than go to Yah. It's Balaam doctrine. It's the same thing acting up. We're not even in the wilderness here yet, but it's the same thing, right? So he says, look, we got an issue. He says, we got to make sure that they don't multiply. We got to deal with them wisely. It's not wise to let them continue to be in a place to where they'll grow, because if they grow, right, he said if they multiply, he says it will come to pass. This is what he believed, that when there falleth out any war, if we ever fight against them, and he was right. He was right. It might have taken a little while, but he was definitely right. Right? How we left after Passover, he was definitely right. How their whole army got wiped out as we walked across on dry land singing songs of Zion. He was right. He wasn't lying. But we weren't trying to go to war with them. All they had to do was be obedient. But see, can I tell you something? Holy Spirit have you. I told you Holy Spirit have you way. It's gonna be a tough one today. It's gonna be tight, one of these tight but right words. Look, peep game. How you going? Pharaoh would still be Pharaoh, and Israel might still be in Kemet. Well, actually, we would have had to go back at some point. But, Kemet wouldn't have been messed with. And Israel and Kemet would probably be have a great relationship if the Pharaoh hadn't assumed that he needed to be greater than us. You ever been in a situation to where, like, if you had just not assumed that you had to have more, you were actually getting more out of it? Look, why is it that even Kemet exists? I'm trying to help somebody. See, you got to recognize the power that one might bring. And some of you are throwing persons away because you don't recognize what they bring to you. You got to be greater. You got to get more stuff. You got to be able to. Who is it? Steph Curry's wife. What's her name? Aisha Curry. And I'm not here to talk about all the other rumors about, they got an open marriage or whatever, blah, blah. I don't know how much of that's true or is not. I won't say I don't care, but it's not my business. That being said, though, I would say this. All the interviews that she was coming out, she finally started acknowledging she was wrong to say this stuff, right? Just recently, but all these interviews she was coming out with and saying, well, Steph Curry, and I don't like the fact that I'm known his wife, and I don't blah blah, and this and that or whatever. And it's like Steph gave you a whole show. Like there's persons that know you, don't even know Steph, but they know your cooking show. There's persons that don't even know that you married to Steph Curry, but they know you as a mother. There's persons that don't know you're married to Steph Curry, but they see you on all these shows. And she was going around, well, I can't stand Steph Curry, blah blah. I can't stand. Everybody wants this, and no guys are running after me. It's like you married. Why would you want guys to run after you? Yeah, he did want to be more than y'all for sure, Sister Michelle. Right, but she was, Aisha Curry out there saying all this and this, and finally realized and finally had to come out and say, yeah, you know what, like, I actually have a lot, I'm known by a lot, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I got because I'm married to my husband. Nothing wrong with it. Right? Now that's just a small example, right? And there's men who feel like that, like they don't like the fact that they become known because they're known through their wife or whatever. But you should get over that. The two of you are becoming one. What you should become a power couple then. Become more powerful in what you do. Allow them to do what they do that helps you to rise up and become powerful together. Right? We want strong relationships. That's why they follow. A lot of them following you anyways. Some of them want to see you fall apart. But for real, persons like power couples. So, persons like celebrity couples, persons who find love in marriage and stuff, hoping that they can live vicariously through you. But I say all that to say, Pharaoh's out here not realizing that, like, Israel being around is the reason why you exist. If you guys recall, there was a man, once again, we heard his name in this already. There was a man by the name of Yosef, or a man by the name of Joseph. How you doing, Shimmy? Thanks for being part of the community. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. And so there was a man by the name of Joseph, and he ends up being sold into slavery, and he ends up by his own, not only his own brothers, but even Ishmaelites are the ones who show up, so his own family still are the ones who didn't take him from there. He gets sold to, in Kemet, he becomes Potiphar's slave, then he ends up, using his gift and stuff. He ends up being able to eventually find favor in Pharaoh's house, and then find so much favor that eventually he becomes second in command of all of Kemet, right? This man, Joseph, right? And think about what I'm about to say. Joseph found favor because he was placed to be second in command because he saved all of Kemet because they were about to go through a famine. Right? That was the connection. That's what got him allowed to have the land of Goshen, and for Kemet and Israel to become like they were anyway, was because that, hey, this person was not looked at as a bad person. They were looked at as Barak, or as many still call a blessing, as a Barak, right? Or Baruch, depending on your dialect. So this Barak was Joseph. He was given unto thee to help your people. Not only does he help his, but he had to first establish your people so that he could then be able to take care of his people. So you having him in your atmosphere, in your sphere of influence, around your people, and giving them a high place is what caused Kemet to exist. If there is no Joseph that comes into your life, if Yah doesn't use Joseph, then you're not able to even have what you had. And even the Pharaoh that dealt with Joseph and made him second in command said, hey, the Yahweh he serves is the reason why Kemet was still in existence. And thank you for the love, appreciate it. That's what he said. The Yahweh that they serve, Joseph, is the reason why Kemet's even around. But the Pharaoh, forgetting the relationship and why he got that relationship, says, no, they'll become too powerful. We must go ahead and take them out. They're more than us now. We should take them out. You're still protected by the same Yahweh who gave you the covenant with Joseph. Are you hearing what I'm saying, beloved? The protection is still coming from Yah through the relationship with Joseph. And yet in your mind, because you want to be more than what's given you what you have, you'll throw away all of Kemet eventually. Well, not all. Eventually they'll be conquered anyways. But you'll throw away all your positioning that you have. My greatness. You'll throw away all that stuff that you have because you can't stay in covenant with the thing that protects you and allows you to grow and to be fruitful. Watch this, beloved. I've never really understood this, but I'm going to just give you a little something if I may. You know that if you want, look, let's put it like this. If you're around somebody, if I'm near the water, I don't even have. If I had a bucket, I'd show it to you, right? But hopefully you get the context, right? If you are around anything that, if you're around, I might. No, I don't. I gotta hold on to this thing. Hopefully you'll catch what I'm saying. If I were to take a bucket, right, and put it on paper. Let's say you are the paper. If you right, the bucket has water. And as I pour, right, or let's say the bucket's empty at first, I pour water into the bucket. As I'm pouring water into the bucket has a place to where it gets full, right? But it, right, and it will spill over and it will wet the paper, right? It'll wet, I don't know, the paper or whatever you would put under, whatever you want to call it, right? But it'll wet the sauce, it'll wet the paper, it'll wet the tablecloth, it'll wet whatever is under the bucket when it gets full. I need you to catch this, right? Because some of us don't understand when y'all bring somebody into your life, how you should make sure that they're allowed to remain fully who they are rather than you trying to take what's there before they even have a chance to get full. The thing that got the paper wet is the fact that when the bucket was poured into, it something happened called an overflow. Do you hear what I'm saying? The bucket was on the table, the paper was around, but the paper couldn't get wet until what was being poured into the bucket overflowed. When there was an overflow, then everything around the bucket, not just the paper, but the table and anything that's on the paper, right, is going to get what was poured into the bucket. If you try though and you get upset and you say, hey, and you some persons will pray against it, some persons will you do voodoo against it, some persons will do witchcraft against it, some persons will cuss about it, some persons will fuss about it, some persons will go to heads of companies and heads of this and try to ruin persons name and stuff over this stuff to make sure that they cut off the flow. Well, if you cut off the flow, then you won't get wet anymore. And then you'll get upset and talk about how dry you are because you cut off the flow. And now the bucket, it doesn't have as much, but you sitting up there dry, and yeah, there's evaporation, but the bucket still got some water in it, so the bucket still got some water. But if you want that overflow to come to your life, you got to allow the flow to go into the bucket. If it doesn't spill over, then it's not going to touch you. There's somebody in your life right now that if you would stop speaking, whoever this is for, if there's somebody in your life right now that if you would stop trying to turn off the flow and let them be fully who they are, then once something's there, it's an overflow. Psalm 23, Jehovah is my shepherd, I shall not want, right? I shall not lack. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me down the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comforteth me. Thou preparest the table in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, right? You pour onto me, and my cup overfloweth, and my cup runneth over. What that means is there was a time to where during certain ceremonies where you would put cups out, and the person who was found to have favor, we would all be commanded to pour into that person's cup, and you would keep pouring into the cup until it overflowed. It was a sign that, hey, the anointing was on you, but it was also a sign that whatever was flowing onto you, let it overflow onto us. Come on, somebody. Somebody needs to hear this. You need to allow that person who's in your life, that person who's governing you, that person who's always around. A lot of us, we get jealous or upset, or how come they get that? Because it's for them. But if you want a piece of it, let it overflow. Because when it overflows, it touches. Come on, oh my greatness. I'm sorry. I hope it don't come out like I'm yelling at anybody. I'm just keeping it real. That's one of the worst things that we do as a people. We can't wait to tear down somebody or stop the flow. And then when the flow stops, then we got the audacity to talk about, you remember the days when we used to have so-and-so? Yeah, I remember them. You cut off the flow. That's why I don't get that no more. You remember the days when we used to, yeah, I remember the days. You was complaining about it. Now we don't do it, and now nobody knows how to do it anymore. And now all of a sudden this, oh, remember the day? Yeah, you cut off the flow. Salah. Our people, some of the most hating people that ever exist, boy. And I get when you put people in a situation like that, eventually they just hate. But I'm just saying, we got a problem with that. You remember this and such? Yeah, I remember this and such. Yeah, Oprah Winfrey and this person, that person, they were wrong about Michael Jackson. They were always wrong about him. It was weird what he was doing. He had a messed up childhood. He needed to not be around children like that, the way that he was, because, yeah, it doesn't look right. That being said, everybody knew, if you did some quick research, everybody knew he was innocent. Now, you'll get the Epstein files. They realized that he was protecting people from Epstein and them, and now everybody want to say he was right the whole time. Cut off the flow. Some of y'all try to call him a Nephilim. He got some weird stuff about him now. We ain't gonna pretend that everything he did was righteous. I'm just saying though, y'all cut it. A lot of us cut that off. You remember? I miss the days when we used to just be able to preach the truth. Yeah, we stopped that a long time ago when nobody would tell the truth about a lot of these persons that are here. Churches aren't trying to teach the truth, and if I be honest, to be fair, a lot of camps ain't trying to teach the truth no more because the truth don't matter. It matters how somebody makes you feel, not if somebody makes you grow. It matters how many numbers you get. Doesn't matter if you actually have numbers of persons that are being saved. You can have 1 million persons that follow you, and maybe 2 persons get saved. Maybe one of the 2 works out their own salvation with fear and trembling. But you got 1 million. You're right. You got 1 million subscribers. You got 100,000 that show up for your services. You'll fill up stadiums for praise and worship services. You'll twerk on stage, but no growth. Just, just saying. Can I? Okay. I told you it's gonna be rough. It's the introduction. Maybe it'll get nicer. I think it's probably gonna get rougher. Look, can I tell you one of the craziest things I ever saw about a pastor? There's so many, right? I'm just gonna give you this. Ain't even one of the crazy. It's one of the craziest I can talk about. How about that? Anybody ever seen the thing about Pastor Kirk Franklin when he finally got a chance to meet his father? I watched it late, but I watched it. I was late to the game on that one. I fully admit I didn't catch it when it was happening, but when I finally did catch it, I thought it was great that he would get to see his father, and he even blamed the guy that he thought was his father and was mad at him, and that wasn't even his father. Somebody told him who his father probably was. They got a test and everything, and his real father actually finally found him and tried to do stuff, and it actually brought him and his son together. If everything they put on camera was true, because you never know if all that stuff is true or not. But one of the things that, if I be honest, that bothered me more than any of the other stuff. See, person don't want to talk like this, but this is when culture comes into place. You got to set this stuff right, and the enemy is trying to get us so far off that we won't even be honest about it. See, we letting this stuff in, right? And persons are putting this stuff on us and causing us to do things that causes us to die in number or never become what we're supposed to, so that we'll still remain in the system that has us messed up. Can I tell you the truth? Some of y'all gonna laugh at this when I say this, but I'm just telling you the truth. Boy, one of the worst things I ever saw in my life. I don't know if I got the colors correct. I think I got the colors correct. I think he was wearing a bunch of pink and everything. Does anybody remember the outfit that Kirk Franklin wore to go visit his father to see what the results, or to tell him the results of the test? Anybody recall that? I'm gonna be honest. The first thing that went through my head was, yeah, you definitely wasn't raised with a father. And no offense, because that doesn't mean that men can't grow and we should just get rid of any men that have men. That's not where I'm headed. What I'm trying to say is that when I saw what he was wearing and the way he was sitting, y'all remember that? Go watch it if you know what I'm talking about. It's on YouTube, right? I think it's still on YouTube. Go watch it if you haven't. Even if you got to just fast forward to that part or whatever. I'm talking about the whole outfit. Now, I don't recall it. Did he have the short shorts on? He had something going on with the shorts, too, which was crazy. My mind's probably trying to block it out because I can't recall that at all. But I recall the way he sat, the way he looked, the way he spoke, and even the way he hugged him. Fam. He didn't give him one of these. And I get he was trying, he didn't know how to. But the way he even said it, he said, I'm going to try to hug you. It's difficult for me to do it, but I'm just letting you, I'm going to try to hug you. But it's hard for me. It's hard. And then he went around and he put his hands around his neck like this in the back. I said, we in trouble. I was happy that he found his father, and his father masculine, do blah blah. And if he had been raised by his father, probably would be different, right? But I'm not trying to say women can't raise boys. Sometimes you got to, unfortunately. But we should be trying to help you as much as we can. But I looked at that thing. I said, yeah, that's the pastor. That's the pastor. Remember, he's Pastor Kirk Franklin. And he be having all these persons come in. It's supposed to be the person that's teaching everybody. He's the one that's telling us how to sing and this and that and what the words about. He be messing that up too. But he got some songs. He got some bangers. I'll be playing some of them still. I ain't gonna hold you. Don't mean he ain't got no gift. The gifts come with that repentance. I ain't gonna hold you. He got some bangers, right? But I'm just telling you, when I saw it, I said, it hit my spirit. That was the first thing that I said was like, I didn't even say, oh, he gave, blah, blah. The first thing that came out of my mouth was, or came in my mind, excuse me, was, yeah, you definitely wasn't raised by a man. And then what came out of my mouth was, we're in trouble. It was like when I seen it, I thought about it before. It's been brought to my, but like Holy Spirit showed me in such a way that I was just like, right. And guess what, sisters? You know what caused him to do that, sisters? And it don't got to be that he's down low, blah blah. I don't know. Right, but I'm just saying, you know what causes men, not even just that, men to act a fool, men to go out of pocket, men to mess with these little underage children, men to want to be red pillars, men to be misogynistic, men to be, you know where that starts, sisters and brothers too? It starts, guess where it starts? It starts with lack of worship. He grew up in church, and he'll tell you this. This is his own story. He grew up in church, but never worshiped. And guess what? I said this, I was talking to a brother about this Friday, I think. And brothers, by the way, my apologies. We literally had no signal, and I didn't have a backup for anybody to preach the word outside of myself. So we couldn't do the men's meeting last night. We got a backup. Well, actually, we got somebody else ready to do it. I'll be the backup this next time. We'll be meeting this Saturday coming up. My apologies. I tried to put the word out. Hopefully you got it. But we said this the other day. I was talking to a brother I think it was Friday. It was Friday. We were having a conversation, and I said to him, or he brought up that I think we had taught on Thursday or something like that, or that one of the manliest things a man can be is to be somebody who follows Yahshua and who worships him, and is a man of submission, submitted to the mission of Christ. If you follow a man submitted to the mission of Christ, or if you as a man are trying to submit to the same mission that Yahshua has for himself and for his people, you're going to become one of the greatest men to ever exist just because. And Kirk will tell you that when he was going to church when he was younger, he wasn't worried about that. He was just doing, he goes to church because people say you go to church. Then eventually he became really great at the piano because at first he was trying, he was really short. Nobody really messed with him like that. He didn't have a father in his life. He grew up really broke and really poor. His mom really wasn't doing what she was supposed to do. Even back then, he was really more raised by his grandmother and, or his aunt or his grandmother, I think grandmother. And then basically he got to a place where he realized he could play the piano and girls would start paying attention to him. So he started playing the piano so girls would start paying attention to him, but still was never really learning anything about what it was to be submitted to Christ. And because of that, he really never learned what it was to be a man. The greatest, all praises, Sister Michelle. Amen. Numbers over souls. Oh, I'm sorry, Elder Nice. Yeah, you said that earlier for sure. Right? I need you to catch this. The greatest thing that any man can become is one who is trying to be as close to Christ as possible. Sisters, if you meet a man who wants to be, and I'm not talking about Jesus, because that's half man, half Zeus. I'm not talking about perfect. He's trying to be like Christ, but he doesn't make excuses, right, for the imperfections. But even if he has the imperfections, like, you'll allow them if you realize that his imperfections come with him trying to get as close to perfect as possible. It comes with worship. True worship breeds true men. Andrew Tate and them. And I'm talking about this because we're talking about Exodus, exiting the system and what they're trying to do to us. Right? Andrew Tate, and I always forget his brother's name, but whatever. Tristan. No offense, Tristan, if you ever see this, who knows if you ever will. Andrew Tate, when he got in trouble for all the stuff he was saying the first time, every time he gets in trouble, guess what he comes back to every time? He keeps saying, "Oh, well, I worship." Don't get it twisted, I worship. Don't get it twisted, I'm a Muslim. Now, don't get it twisted, I'm more of a Christian than all these persons or whatever. But he always has to come back to worship. Why? Because persons understand that if you worship properly, then you're a better person. I know they don't want to say that. Russell Brand got in trouble for whatever. I don't even know officially what he's in trouble for. I've seen his tour of trying to apologize for whatever he's actually in trouble for. I know part of that apology was him even admitting that he messed with that underage girl when he was 30 years old, but said in England technically she wasn't underage. What does he try to do? Why is he getting made fun of? If you even know who Russell Brand is, why is he getting made fun of? He's getting made fun of because he said that he became a born again Christian. Then they said, "Okay, well, show me your favorite Bible verse," and he started going through the Bible. And all he said was Isaiah. Couldn't find Isaiah, and then when he got there, couldn't find the chapter and verse he was talking about because he doesn't worship. You know what I'm saying? The enemy's trying to get us away from worship. The first thing that you use to enslave a people is change who they worship. Because if you change who they worship, you will change who they are. This is all we're going to be talking about really in Exodus. It's going to keep coming back to the same thing. Beloved, hear me. If we don't go back to worship, I love that song. Let us sing song to glory to the Lamb. The Mali music version of it. I like "Glory to the Lamb" too by I forget the other guy's name. He does the slow one. The "Glory to the Lamb, glory to the Lamb." He does one, but not that one. The one that's Mali music his. I like the what does he say? He says, "I don't know if it's just me, but I finally profoundly important that quickly we realize and see that we've been insubordinate. Mouth, mouths to praise, hands to wave, feet to dance and sing and songs to save. And if we can return to the place of worship, then we'll be okay, right? And we'll sing songs to the glory of the Lamb, right? Then what's the second verse? Contrary to popular belief, we were all conceived and brought forth with purpose, and that's to worship. And the enemy knows if we ever get back there, we'll obtain the power to hurt him. So I encourage you, my brothers and sisters, to get back to the threshing floor, because judgment's coming, and all that hurt, brokenness, or all this heartache, brokenness, hurt, and pain, no one hurt no more. And we'll sing songs to the glory of the Lamb. I love the lyrics of that song because it's about worship. It's true. If we could get back to worship, a lot of this stuff goes away. Because whoever you worship defines who you are. The reason why they wore what they wore in Kemet is because of who they worship. You can find out a lot of persons. Do you think the persons who worship Christ, or well, let's do it like this. We'll do the Judeo-Christian words. You think the persons that worship Jesus wear the same thing as persons who worship worship Allah? I don't think persons catch that, man. If you go to work, you don't know this. Do you know that every time somebody wears a suit and a tie means something? Do you know that cufflinks used to look different, or the cuffs used to look different, and they mean something? Do you know that when you have this, the handkerchief, right? All these pieces we used to have on our suits and everything, they mean something. Do you know that they used to use it even to cover the smell because, persons didn't bathe properly, so they stank? Do you know that you wore the tie a lot? That's why the power tie is red, because you wore the tie. It was supposed to symbolize if somebody was in battle, they got hurt around their neck, and you would wrap their neck up so they could live. And if it bleeds through, right? So the tie represented that. Do you know that the cuffs were there, where they would have the frills and all that back in the day, and they would put different things that they might sniff real quick and stuff? All this stuff has a meaning and has a purpose. It's attached to culture. You just think, oh, we wear that because I want to get a corporate job, or it's Sunday, so I need to look holy. What's holy about? What's holy about? Man, everybody in here stink. Let me put this handkerchief up in here. What's holy about that? There ain't nothing holy. You were told that boy, he dressed sharp. He looked like a preacher. Preachers, what's holy about acting like your neck is cut and making sure that you tie your tie around it? What's holy about going to a service and putting your finger up so you can walk out? Because the slave master used to have us put our fingers out so that we could go ahead and be seen while church was going on, so he could look at you. What's holy about having a peanut gallery, not realizing that the word peanut gallery is because they called you guys peanuts? Black, they called you brittle. They broke you like nuts. Sometimes even messed up your nuts and took them off. And here you are at the peanut gallery, don't even think about it. What's holy about it? We don't know culture. What's holy about having somebody who works on behalf of massa and sits in the big chair, and then when the pastor finishes preaching, the Sambo pastor finishes preaching out of the slave Bible, then they come up and they correct anything that makes you think you're not supposed to be a slave. Y'all call that person an overseer, by the way. That's where that term came from. Mm-hmm. The overseer, we know who the overseer was. He worked on behalf of massa. He worked on behalf whenever. That's why still to this day, some of y'all don't get it. It's not our culture. Sometimes I do, if led by the Spirit, or we have other things to do. If you notice, if these preachers finish preaching, I don't come behind these preachers and start saying, yeah, that was great about this. But that comes from a thing where the overseers were supposed to make sure they came and checked and continued racism, white supremacy, and told you to make sure that you still were enslaved, so that just in case the preacher said anything that made you think you might be better or great as a person that wasn't a white man, or really a white man, they didn't care about white women either, then they would say, we want to make sure that you know that you're not. So they sat in that big chair. That's why you still got the big chairs. That's why you got overseers still. Why would one want an overseer? Especially as an Israelite. But you dress like an overseer. What does that even mean, dress like an overseer? Why would you want to dress like an overseer? Why would you want to dress like somebody that enslaves, that lies about the word and make sure that they teach Balaam doctrine to ensure that they're stumbling blocks to the Negro? Why? That's right. We're holding on to to our oppressor / oppression. It's a Stockholm syndrome at its finest. Praise y'all for this coffee today, because I was not firing on all cylinders earlier. And by the way, this is our normal time when we're normally off. On Sundays we go a little longer. Once again, not because we in the Sunday worship. We go longer because we have more time. Right. So I got a little bit more time left before Family Day. If you feel like you got to break off, or don't like the fact that we're going deeper into this stuff, I still got about 30 minutes. I got about 28 minutes, I guess. So we still got some stuff to do. And this is just the intro. Tomorrow we're gonna go into how they offed us. So just be ready. This Exodus series is gonna be something. Right? It's just the introduction today, boy. Holy Spirit, have your way. I'm loving this thing. I could do this all day. But yeah, I need you to comprehend that, beloved, that we don't even recognize who we are, what's going on. They thought that if we grew, the Pharaoh said if we grew, and the nerve of him, to where you wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for us. And really, not because of us, but because of the Most High. We're doing Exodus. We're going to do the whole thing of Exodus, a series from now until, we read Exodus chapter 1 verses 1 through 14. Right now we're still in Exodus chapter 1 verse 10. So once again, this new Pharaoh, this new dynasty gets on the throne and says, Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us. Right? So he said they're not even our enemy. But what if war breaks out with our enemy and they decide to leave us? What'll happen is they'll go to our enemy and make them stronger while cutting us more than in half because there's more of them than there are of us. He says, so just in case, we don't want to lose any power. We don't really even, we have power over them, but technically they could take over at any time. Or if they left, they could always change the tables. Y'all still did it even in your voting stuff. It's just now that your voting stuff doesn't matter that much anymore. But they always looking for you to set the table about something. They said they might fight against us and so get them up out of the land. They might leave us. Right? Because also, if we've grown to be more than you, but we're still not necessarily considered to be Pharaoh out of the equation, then that means, hey, that means we're still over them. What if they decide to leave? So it's not only we might do something to them, but what if they ever went to another side? What if they ever realize the power they have? Or what if they use that power for unrighteousness? Because that's what they were doing. That's right, they made that decision out of fear. That's what they said. They said, what if we do that? Verse 11, therefore, because of that, they did set over them taskmasters. Because of that, they set over them taskmasters. And my stuff is not working the way it's supposed to. Sorry. Hold on one second. I had that stuff where I almost lost everything. Okay, so he set over them. So this Pharaoh set over them taskmasters. Okay, let's look up this word taskmaster. By the way, that's what I was trying to do. Okay, here we go. All praises. It is interesting. Guess what the beginning of this word taskmaster is? You can't. After a while, you can't make this stuff up. Now this is connotation. Right, so this is not the same as denotation. So this is saying this is what the word sounds like. But when somebody uses this word, especially when you say massa, guess what taskmaster sounds like? It says it's mas, or you would say they mass. And when they said they put over them taskmasters, right? You have to understand this. What they said is they put somebody, the way you would say it today, is that basically they put over them a gang of overseers. like when you learn this stuff for yourself, it's like you can't even make this stuff up after a while. Like at some point, you just gotta stop. You gotta put your hands up, throw your hands up, and stop trying to go buck against the word. Like at some point, you gotta just be look. When it says they went against mas or massa, a taskmaster or even an overseer. Right? Even a taskmaster. A taskmaster is not the slave owner. That's Pharaoh. Right? Just like emperor, imperare, right? Literally means the head slave owner. Right? The head slave owner in charge. Not the HNIC, the HSSOIC, I guess. Right? But the overseer oversees things on behalf of the master. And there's a gang of overseers. They're over a labor gang or a slave gang. And these are persons that are forced into service. They're forced into serfdom. They're forced to give tribute. And they have other enforced payments. Does any of that sound familiar to you? After a while, I'm just... This thing is getting... It's like the more you teach this, the more you preach this, the more you live this, just live long enough. It's like, come on, man. All right, who we if somebody denying that this thing, if somebody wants to keep saying this ain't got nothing to do with us, at some point, we just got to let you stay in ignorance or something. I don't know. Just stay over there. Right? Play in the sandbox over there or something. All right? Let us go and just swing and slide over here. Because y'all like literally this word they use, mas. It's talking about that they had a gang of overseers. So when it says they put together taskmasters, they literally said, okay, we've got to enslave them, and we're going to have gangs run and put them together. What's some of the biggest gangs that exist today? I wonder. This is what we got to escape from, yo. I wonder, what are some of the biggest gangs that exist today? How you doing, Heaven Sent? Are the police a gang? You know, there are so many different gangs of them. Matter of fact, police are slave patrolmen. They're the ones that were supposed to go and catch you. Right? Come on, that's the different BLM. That's right. They that's the BLM they had to come up with because they said Black Lives Matter, and they're taught that anybody black is in a gang. So since they think all of us are in one gang, they said Blue Lives Matter. They said the gang that be hemming y'all up. That's the one. When we said simply that our lives matter as well, all lives matter didn't quite get it done. They said no, we got to come up with Blue Lives Matter because we need to make sure that the ones that wrangle y'all up, we gonna say that their lives matter because they should be respected. Sure, the right and left wing. That's why I said they two birds of the same thing. You're coming in late. The system is the system. It doesn't matter if you want people to vote for the lesser of two evils. If they're both evil and they're both connected to the same bird, then they're basically the same evil. Doesn't matter what head of the beast you talk about. The body is the same. Doesn't matter if you're a fallen angel, a star on the dragon's back as it falls down, the serpent's back as it falls down. At the end of the day, you're on the back of the serpent's back. You still, if you do something, it's as if the serpent did it himself. That's how authority works. That's right. We got to study this etymology. See, so Mas is a gang of overseers to produce labor over a labor gang or a slave gang. That's what it is. So when it says taskmasters, you need to know this wasn't just, oh, okay, they put together some stuff or they put together some persons that whipped them or no. This was a gang. They had a group. By the way, it's not just police officers because I was trying to go somewhere before we stopped there real quick. If I might just put this on there, I've said this several times as well. I'll say it again today, right? Not to be fair, it is fair, but to be righteous, and to tell the truth. Yo, how you doing, Fox? Fox 4? Look, real talk. Do you not realize that all these gangs that exist, all the ones that you swear up and down, gang culture, honor amongst thieves, who ain't nobody saying nothing to the po-po, almost, look, I can't say every single one, but just about every single gang, especially once they hit a certain number, they're already compromised, and many of them are already sold out to the police. They're already sold out to governors. They're already sold out to the federal government, right? Reagan doesn't get locked up, and neither does George H.W. Bush. And right, Oliver North takes a hit, but he doesn't get locked up. Neither does his secretary. But that being said, who got locked up and who's supposed to be the one that we call the mastermind or whatever, or the person that at least you were getting most of the stuff out of the drugs from in the United States of America? Freeway Ricky Ross. If you don't know about him, just do some research. Rick Ross stole his name from him. Thank you, Sister Mignon. I see it. Right? Freeway Ricky Ross. Right? Freeway Ricky Ross, and all the stuff that everybody want to come to, and he's talking about, no, I ain't know nothing, man. I ain't know this, I ain't know that, blah, blah. Stop. You don't exist unless the federal government allows you to. They went and they got the drugs, allowed them in the country, put them put the Klekuda in our communities, specifically to make sure that they could fund the Iran-Contra stuff. Reagan was the man in charge. How many times anybody gonna talk about Reagan? Reagan ran on Make America Great Again, by the way. When Trump ran on Make America Great Again and still doing all that stuff with MAGA, that was supposed to be a shout out to those who a generation before made all their money off of stuff. You should have already seen it coming. The persons who grew up by Reagan making sure that the corporations got all the money, he was saying to the corporations, hey, give me the money. I'm about to do the same thing. It's a gang, right? But in the midst of it, even the gangs, the lesser gangs that were running stuff for them on the street, right? Oh well, I guess thank you, Patty. We're on there amongst other platforms right now, but I appreciate you. That we're over there right now. That being said, um, like the snow show Snowfall, I still haven't seen Snowfall. Snowfall, I've seen pieces of it. Like Snowfall is the one that by the end of it, the guy is really beat up and real bad at the end, walking with his friend or whatever, and asking for 20 or asking for something, and he gives him a 20 or something like that, and his face is all jacked up and everything. So I think I've seen pieces of it, but I don't know if I'm gonna sit through. To be honest, I don't have a stomach for some of that stuff. I might read about the if it's based off a real story. Maybe one day I'll read that. But oh, it is about. It's about. It can't be about not about Freeway Ricky Ross, because that's not how he ended up, is it? Freeway Ricky Ross learned how to read and everything in prison, and then got out. And I don't know how well he's doing for himself or not, but what he makes for himself now, he makes off of his stories about what he used to be and everything. So they must have changed the ending then, or something, because that's not his story, as far as I know. As far as I know, could be wrong, right? But maybe one day I'll watch it. I don't know. I can't do violence. So that's why I can't really do with so much violence. I got PTSD, so I can't really do. Even before the PTSD, for real, I can't do with so much, right? But it's probably based on a true story. So okay, maybe Does it talk about? Okay, real quick. I got to get back to the word real quick. Does it talk about him playing tennis and everything? Because that's really what he was trying to do whole time, and he was hoping he'd be able to play tennis one day. He was actually putting a lot of black tennis players out there. So a lot of persons, we when you even get to the place where you can start talking about black persons playing tennis, especially out of California, that was him. He was actually funding a lot of that stuff. So I don't know how much they talked about that, but that's something that I was like, when I learned, I was like, huh. Because I like tennis. I played when I was younger, and we teach something. Okay, it's not the same one. Okay, so it's a different. That's right. There is more than one Rick Ross. So could be another one. So, okay, thank you for that. That's true. I'll be forgetting about the other guy because I only think about Freeway Ricky Ross, and then I think about the dude who, the one who's Rick Ross now, or the boss, whatever he called himself, who stole the name or stole the name and likeness. So, okay, that's true. There is more than one of the original, or one of the ones. Anyways, though, my apologies. So, but yeah. So what was I doing? What was I saying? Oh yeah. But Freeway Ricky Ross, right? Any of them that was selling, any of them in D.C. I know some of them cats. Any of them in New York, I know some of them cats. Any of them in Baltimore, I'm around some of them. I can't say I know them like that, but I mean I grew up in New York until a certain age. I grew up in the DMV for a lot of my stuff, right? Okay, cool. Thank you, Leanne. Yeah, I'll check it out. I like John Singleton stuff. Um, but yeah, so it's like what was I saying though? Yeah, so I grew around a lot of that stuff or whatever. I know a lot of stories about the stuff from H Town. I know a lot of cats from D. I know a lot of cats from I can't. Yeah, actually, I know a few cats from Miami. I know some cats from LA, from Oaktown. I don't know no cats from LA. I know the stories from LA. I know some cats from Oaktown. So wherever, those are the main places I know. I know a little bit about Dallas. I can't say I know enough about Dallas. I know Chicago, actually, South Side. My father used to actually hang out with gangsters. He never was one, but used to hang out with the gangsters in South Side Chicago. So he could go there and not have to worry about certain things or whatever. He go hang out. He come all the way from. He went to college in Indiana. It would go all the way over there, like on weekends and stuff. So I know some of the game, right? I know some of the stuff, and I'm here to tell you, them cats will tell you, right? Them cats will tell you that they could not move what they moved if the government didn't allow it, right? It's gang culture. It's gang culture, right? It's the government is the one allowing it. And I'm saying that to say this, get back to my other point that I've gotten so far away from now. But I'll say all that to say, if you look at these things that are happening, you have to recognize that the gangs that are moving this stuff, right? Yeah, I can't. The culture of it, the culture that exists, and the persons that are even you think are the highest, the Jay Z's, the Snoop Dogg's, the NWA's, but specifically because nobody in NWA really was a street dude like that, except for Easy. Easy brings about Bone Thugs and Harmony, right? Bring out Bone Thugs and all these cats that we build up now, talking about this or that or whatever. They were persons who brought upon death upon our communities, and no matter what gang you're part of, I'm trying to tell you the truth. Be in a gang long enough, what's happening is the government is allowing it, even if they're allowing it to try and eventually get to somebody else, right? Like even if they're doing a RICO and they're trying to get to somebody else, the government has to allow it, or a lot of times they just let somebody in. Sometimes they run it, and other persons may or may not know. But a lot of times, a lot of cats know that the police know that you do it. They talk to y'all. A lot of the ones who were the big bosses or whatever. Even remember, look at all the movies that you do, right? Look at Denzel's movie that he did when he did a real life person going back to there. Look at what they doing with what's his face, Forrest Whitaker, and the character he's playing, Bumpy, right? Bumpy Johnson from back in the day. Look at these cats for real, for real. They have to have plants, even in the police station, or the police station has plants in them, or they work together. Yeah, look at Frank Lucas. Look at all these cats. They have to have somebody who is the police. These cats have to be, they have persons in their pocket. Who was the cat who played? I haven't seen the movie in so long, I can't really recall but certain scenes in the movie. But Denzel, he played against who was the cop that was trying to get him? The same guy from Gladiator, whatever his name is, right? And that dude was, and he was like, "Yo, you gonna give me the police that you work with? You gonna give me you gonna give me this?" And he was like, "No, I'm not." But he's like, "No, you gonna give him not Training Day. I'm talking about the character the character from when he played in Training Day too. Actually, yeah, he's a police officer, of course. Excuse me, sorry. Yeah, but anyways, but that's how that works. Russell Crowe, thank you, American Gangster. That's how that works. It don't work unless you got dirty cops. And so basically, the cops and the gangs are in the same gang, or they work together so well that they might as well be together, or they have covenants, they have contracts. So your favorite gangster, right? As much as, and look, I'm not saying who was real or who wasn't. I don't know. So let's say Bus was really selling that stuff. Now I don't know if he was just doing weed, but from what it sounded like, it wasn't just weed. Or let's say Jay-Z. Let's say DMX. Let's say The Game. Let's say I already named Easy E. Pac really never grew up in it per se, but he glorified it. Biggie Smalls, whomever, all these cats was selling stuff in your neighborhood and were compromised. There we go. How you doing, Brother Kofi? They were compromised from day one, just about. And once you get too big, you can't exist unless you are compromised. Because the biggest gang out there need that money. The CIA, the FBI, the federal government, your state government, right? Ice-T, come on, all these cats. They were compromised and they sold death to your community. We shouldn't be surprised that Snoop Dogg. I apologize, y'all. We started a little late. I was trying to see if I can compress this to 11:30. We might go 11:45. If you got to leave at 11:30, thank you so much. But I got to make sure that this word is. And I told you it's the intro, but it's going to be a little rough. But we got to get this stuff together because you need to know the context of the fact of how enslaved we are. You said you was in it. Hey, thank you for a minute, by the way, and thank you for getting yourself together. There's other cats that was in it too. That's part of what we do. If you want to tell your story, you tell your story, right? But I'm just saying these cats. A lot of these cats is compromised. How you doing, Lady J? And so Snoop, you shouldn't be surprised that Snoop is now all of a sudden gone from okay, he just high to okay, well that's just to wait a minute, like he betrayed us. He betrayed you when he was selling the stuff on the street. You think Jay-Z, the billionaire, just now started compromising with the NFL? Just now started doing satanic rituals and stuff? Do you not know that in Cali right now, and there's really more places than Cali, but in Cali they started to admit it, right? The gangs themselves started to admit it, that they do devil worship in ceremonies. They trying to get whatever advantage they can get, period. Some of them are walking around talking about Christ, even though they take you out. Right? Kendrick's kind of from that mindset. He was not from the street like that. He was in the street doing certain things, but he's kind of that mindset. That's why he is the way that he is, right? But there's other cats outright. They'll say, "Oh yeah, we killing you, but we got Christ this," so they got different versions of it. But some of them straight up do devil worship and stuff. Straight up take blood from persons and do ceremonies. They find persons in homes in abandoned buildings, abandoned homes, right? With blood, with stuff drawn out. I'm not even gonna get into on here, right? Do the research if you feel like going down that rabbit hole. It's disgusting stuff. It's crazy stuff happening still to this day. It happened in the Northeast. It happens from basically from Connecticut, from Massachusetts, Connecticut, all the way down the East Coast, all the way down to Florida. Happens all the time. These cats are trying to get an advantage. They want to be the head. There's a lot of sorcery, yeah. There's a lot of sorcery. You don't think some of these MS-13 cats ain't using? And I know that's an old musty reference for some of y'all, but they still around. You don't think the MS-13 cats is using this stuff? You don't think that Haitian cats are using this stuff? Aren't using this stuff? Or you don't think they are using this? Yeah, the drug cartel, all that. You don't think that they're not using stuff? You don't think that the mob, the Italians? Do you know what you had to do to be a y'all didn't watch a lot of the movies? Some of it is true, some of it's not, but a lot of it is. Have you ever heard of what they do at a mob thing when you become a made man? Do you not know that they have like the cards, and you have to like they have to stab your hands and stuff, and you got to put do blood oaths, literal blood oaths? Do they have candles of their saints and stuff like that they walk around with? I mean, this is real. This is real spill. Yeah, come on. Like, how you think they got successful in it? Jay-Z been working for the feds. Y'all surprised now? Nelly been working for the government. You surprised now that he doing what he can for Trump? He just continue what he been doing. Snoop been working for the feds. You surprised that he continuing? Snoop, you look. I'm gonna tell you like this: if you guys believe that they can hate us as much as the people, I'm just trying to help you to be free. I want to help you. The Masons, all that, for real, right? Look, I just want to help you. If you believe that the government will choke out a dude for selling singles on the street corner, selling them loosies on the street corner. I used to get them loosies. I used to get them singles all the time because that's all I could afford. You can't afford a pack. String a little bit of change together. At one point, it was 50 cents. When it went to 75 cents, I said I might not be in this too much longer. When it was 75 cents a cigarette, now in New York, some of y'all paying what, $20 for a pack? I shudder to think about what you paying for a carton. My greatness, right? I'm glad I got out the game. I was shocked. We was going down the road. Somebody had a sign. I don't think it's an old sign. Somebody had a sign for cigarettes for like $5. I was like, oh my greatness, New York, that costs you about 30 bucks. I was like, dang, okay, they really try to get people to smoke down here. They need them to smoke down here. Right? But I used to get them loosies, them singles. And I remember when them things rose up to about 75 cents, I said, oh, okay, I'm in the wrong thing. I need to repent quickly. It's amazing. But, well, a price sometimes will make a brother repent. Not selling your soul, but you ain't trying to sell it. What? You said your mom's paying like $13.75. Oof. Yeah, it's I mean, literally, you used to have to. You're already selling your kidneys and your lungs. Sorry, your lungs for it. Shoot, nowadays you might have to just give up one lung. That might be the next price. Like you can smoke for the next 10 years, but give up a lung. I mean, really, that's what you're doing anyway. But I got priced out. Who knows? I might have been up here talking about the Bible, trying to tell y'all why it was okay. So you got to change the word when So anyway, so let me get back. But if they'll choke out a dude for selling singles, I've seen them arrest a dude for selling singles, for selling some socks, trying to hustle. You think that they'll arrest a dude for that, but they'll let somebody make songs about real killings that they've done, and they ain't gonna do nothing? R. Kelly was working for the government. Once they had no need of him, once you're not popular, once you're not making stuff move the way it is, you better stop what you're doing. They look the other way, but after a while, shoot. Mess around if you want. Now you're not doing whatever, and now people are taking notice that we didn't do our job. See, because here's the thing: as much as everybody talk bad about him, he's a terrible person for what he did, or at least what he did is terrible. Prayerfully, he gets his life together. That's between him and Yah. Terrible stuff that he did. Not to be excused. Hear this though: Everybody had something to say about R. Kelly. Everybody had to start all of a sudden saying something about the girls and trying to make them out to be bad. Eventually, everybody had something to say about all the persons that work for R. Kelly. Nobody really started doing this, but I even started saying, like, yo, I heard stories when I started living around Chicago. I heard stories about R. Kelly way before blah, blah. All of us got to take the stuff on the chin, too, including even though I was a child. I didn't pay attention to the fact that on the front of the album, when age ain't nothing but a number, and I knew he was married to her, but I didn't even think that she was my age. She's about my age. She's like a couple years older than me. And I couldn't fathom as a child that she was a child. So I heard she was married to R. Kelly. This wasn't no new stuff. And I recall seeing in the background there was somebody there, but I didn't even think about looking at the album cover. Then you get older and you're like, wait a minute. R. Kelly, little creepy behind, was sitting there with his leg up, right? Ain't his leg up in the background, looking over her. Age ain't nothing but a number, wrote all the songs. Everything she's singing on there is because this dude who is messing her over and her family that's letting it happen because he's giving them all this money. And then she went from that to Timberland was trying to get with her too. He couldn't though, and then he was so infatuated, at least so he says. He admits this, which is crazy to even admit. So infatuated with the girl that he decided that he was going to marry a woman because she looked like Aaliyah. Dane Dash, you want to come out and act like he was her protector. Dane Dash was messing around with her while she was underage. Jay-Z, before he started messing around with the woman he married underage, he was messing with Aaliyah. Everybody tossing her around here or there. This is totally alleged. Matter of fact, this is my own personal belief. Okay, so don't nobody go in here. I just said that this is my own personal belief. This is not something I've read. This is not something that's ever been admitted to. Can I tell you a truth that nobody want to talk about? This is what I see. Something that I've seen that I've never heard anybody say, but I'm gonna say it. I just got to get it off my chest. Who knows if it ever comes back up? Real talk, real shit. Okay. Y'all know Missy Elliott is a lesbian, right? Y'all know that? If you didn't, now you know. I'm pretty sure she's made that pretty clear over the years. But there was a reason why she would never. How you doing, Queen and Zinga? There was a reason why she would never promote, or you never saw her with a man, blah blah, whatever. Or I don't know if she was playing like she had one, if she had a beard, whatever. But y'all know that about her, right? That's not something that's news. It shouldn't be newsworthy to you. That's Missy Elliott. That's who she is. Okay. Same as the Brat, even though the Brat seemed to be more bi than whatever, but it is what it is. Okay. With Missy Elliott, you might not know this, but with Missy Elliott, watch this, peep game. Missy Elliott is a lesbian, hanging around a bunch of dudes. Timberland. I don't know about Magoo, if y'all even remember who that is. But Missy is Missy, Timberland. These are the circles. Jay-Z, R. Kelly, right? Dane Dash, right? Genuine. Now, Genuine is closer to her age, if I remember. Actually, how old is Genuine? Is Genuine closer to my age? I think he's closer to my age. Maybe he's 50 or something like that. But these are the same circle. Same circles, right? Eventually going to be Beyonce and all them, and those circles too, right? They're in the same circles. MC Light is one as well. But right? But watch this. Missy Elliott was around Aaliyah the way that everybody else was. And all these cats was passing Aaliyah around, right? You remember that? All these cats was passing her around. Missy Elliott's a lesbian. It was so depressed when she left. I'm not saying she wasn't, but nobody ever says all these dudes was around doing this to her. Here, Missy is around. Ain't nobody ever see. Now, this is just my. If she were to come out and say she blah blah whatever, this is just my thought process. Genuine 55, so he might have. So he's basically probably a younger predator, but a predator too. And we watched it happen, right? She might have needed to go to get away from all this stuff. But this is oppressive behavior. And we line these persons up. We can't wait to say why it's so great what Dame Dash did. Not why it's so great how who Jay-Z has become. He's married to another girl who he basically put in Aaliyah's place when Aaliyah passed away. Everything that was being done for Aaliyah all of a sudden gets done for Beyonce. Because go back and listen to Beyonce on Austin Powers when she was on that Austin Powers movie. Go back and listen to her song there and see that thing was terrible. But you give her all the people that were working with Aaliyah, all of a sudden she's the new Aaliyah. All these persons passing her around. Oh yeah, they Foxy Brown as well. Yeah. By the way, um, well Foxy, I don't know if she denies it, but she basically says, he's not a bad person. By the way, that not necessarily the same circles, but if we don't talk about like Lil Kim, Lil Kim was being messed around with by Biggie. That's one of the reasons why she got so messed up in her head. He was outright saying that she ugly, she too dark, she blah blah. Meanwhile, his dark fat behind. Forgive me, I'm not trying to fat you. I'm just being honest. You gonna talk about the sister like that? To the point to where she bleaches her skin and changes her face and all this stuff like that. Won't wear her real hair, right? Had to get implants and all this stuff. At least I think so, right? I think so. Um, but like this stuff is there. It's oppressive behavior that person's picked up, and they work for the feds or they work for the system. They doing the same thing that the persons who hate you do. That's how they got where they got. How you doing, Sakim? That's how they got where they got. They work for the same folk. They work for the same ones. They've been working for the same ones. 50 Cent been working for the feds. There's paperwork. 50 Cent been working for the feds. You think that look, they play in our face so much. Sorry, some of this gang culture stuff is gonna die today. All right? Look, for some of y'all that don't catch it, 50 Cent in the game came out publicly and have said in interviews several times. What's his face backs up some of it. I don't know how much he backs up, but DJ, who's the one that you got to come on his show and do the freestyle up there in New York? DJ, not DJ Premier, not DJ Clue. What's his face came up and did the thing. My man from the Roots came up and did the thing there. Not Sway. I think he's shorter, got a beard, bald head. A lot of cats. I mean, I know Sway in the morning, the five fingers of death and stuff like that. Anyway, somebody else. If you look up, if you look up freestyle by Black Thought, he just went on the show recently and did a freestyle. When I say recently, like maybe a couple years ago now, but went there and everybody was reminded, oh yeah, Black Thought, the man. He did it on the same person's show. But Funk Master Flex, there it is, Funk Master Flex. Thank you, Funk Master Flex, Funk Flex. Um, he was there too when it happened, supposedly, or at least he was there when they started. You could hear during the interview or something like that with 50 when they started like going at it when they came up to the room that 50 was in. They said they told everybody outright that they went outside and took out machine guns and was shooting at each other. Now let me just ask you a question. If you went outside, look, I'm gonna just ask you a question because we got to kill some of this gang culture stuff and some of the stuff that some of y'all think is gang culture, right? But also some of you who actually think that you're living in gang culture and you're really not. Do you think that the police don't know that you had a gang fight with actual bullets flying from machine guns? And they say that they were looking at each other in each other's eyes. They were that close. They tell you that certain persons got hit. Do you think that the police don't know that happened? And yet 50 Cent is still around, still out, and is buying up Louisiana, parts of New Orleans, not to get back to the people, but to make sure that he can go ahead and do what Tyler Perry did with studios, right? While being bankrupt too, by the way, or did he just come out of bankruptcy? I guess he must be out of bankruptcy now, right? While being bankrupt while showing persons money online and stuff. Because you can file a chapter 7 and chapter 11 and stuff. You can still have money, right? Um, you just don't feel like paying bills. He learned that from Trump. So if you believe that 50 Cent can do all those things, and yet somehow the police know about all these things, but you think he's not compromised, then you don't really know what you're talking about. 50 Cent is compromised. He's fake. He's oh, hello. He's fake. You think he's fake? He's not a real. 50 is not real. Like y'all think that real is this, that, whatever. 50 is not real. He's compromised. I don't know what to tell you. He operative. He the biggest of ops. If you want to get somebody locked up, 50 has got cats locked up, and we still out here celebrating this man. By the way, some of them are ops and straight up. We know everything about him makes him an op. DJ Vlad. How many people he gonna get locked up? How many times he gonna take culture? How many times he gonna use somebody and then use them up and then throw them away and we gonna agree with it because we like drama? There's a dude out here now, Poetic Flacco, who will sit up there and tell you all this stuff or whatever, and all he do is just he's doing the same. He basically a gossip queen. That's what he is. This is call him what we used to call him. Let's call a spade a spade. He's basically a gossip queen. If you want to put a king there, fine. Be the king of gossip, whatever. Charlemagne, right? He was somebody getting y'all locked up and stuff. Y'all forget now because he has beef with her. But Charlemagne came from what's her face? Who's the one that used to at the show used to say, "How you doing?" Wendy Williams. That's where Charlemagne comes from. Wendy Williams used to get a bunch of us locked up whenever she get upset at somebody, and she would just randomly call everybody gay, just to be able to go ahead and win an argument, and people just went with it or whatever. But she locked people up. Charlemagne locked people up. Charlemagne used to say she's the GOAT. He wanted to be like her. Now all of a sudden he's our guy somehow, while supporting Andrew, whatever the guy's name is, not Andrew Tate, but Andrew, whatever. The guy who looks Italian or something like that, or is Jewish Italian, something like that. They got their show together. See, let us deal with them wisely, because they might try to fight against us. So therefore, they put taskmasters, they put overseers over them, and these taskmasters, Andrew Schultz, thank you, and these taskmasters are supposed to be gangs of overseers. They put them over to afflict them with their burdens. They're specifically put out to put burdens on you. Next time you see somebody putting out all this stuff to get you to be mad about what's going on about a war that really has nothing to do with you, that's somebody putting a burden on you. How much of this stuff really matters? How much of this stuff is changing lives? How much of this stuff is causing you and I to be able to make sure that we're free financially? They're putting a burden on you. They're putting these taxes on you. Therefore, did they set over them gangs of overseers to afflict them with their burdens. And they built. And who did they build for, by the way? Who are these persons? Who can we look down to see who they built for? Pithom and Ramses. Now, real quick, I just want to hit these real quick. I know I'm pretty much over time. Just humor me just for a little bit. This ain't gonna take me that long. I want to show you. So Ramses, you guys already know about, even if you just know about him by name. Really, it'd be Pithom or Pithom, Pithom, or even Pithom. Some would say now modern days, but Pithom, right? And Ramses. Now Pithom is what they used to call the city of justice. The city of justice that Israelites were forced to build. So this place, justice to them, was a place where Israel built for them. Even in what we're talking about, we still can't escape it, right? But then let's look at Ramses. A lot of you might not know what his name actually means, Ramses, right? If we look up Ramses, really Ramses, right, or Ramses, he is known as a child of the sun, right? And he built a city in Lower Kemet or Lower Egypt, right? And this city, more than likely, was either at the border of Goshen or was in Goshen itself. We're not 100% sure anymore, but probably was like right there to where like he literally built. He had Israelites build a city for him at the border. So that right, and if you don't know about Ramses worshipped Ra, but he believed that he was the embodiment of Ra on the planet Earth. He believed that he was the manifestation of the sun on Earth. So when you hear people say stuff like the SON is the SUN, that's usually either Ishtar stuff, it's going to be Assyrian stuff, it's going to be Babylonian stuff, it's going to be Kemetic stuff. It's not our belief system, right? But if you have somebody building something like that to themselves, right at your borders, do you think that you'll pick up that worship? Do you think that you'll begin to believe, especially if these persons are enslaving you and taking away who you are? Do you think that that might be problematic? If everybody's always building up something that is about your defeat, will you start to celebrate the persons who defeat you? Right? We're almost done. We're almost finished. Right? Just stay with me. Stay with me. So if we build up these things, hey, I'm all right. Hey, so if we build up these things, that right, if these things are always built up against us, and the persons that are against us seem to always be winning, you'll start looking for your victories in the persons that are always winning, even if they're oppressive. Right? So that's real talk. So that's why like you got a lot of cats out here who will say all these different things or whatever, and we see like cats that actually, and it don't matter what your belief system is, whatever, right? A lot of us find we'll put our beliefs to the side if it means that we'll be able to go higher in the world, and we can sell our soul and make something real quick happen. And you see that happen quite a bit. If you recall, everybody who all these cats that hate Trump now, even before he was running for president, they used to have Trump in all the lyrics. When you talk about hip hop, there's a time like especially in the late '80s to through the '90s, even to the early 2000s, where Trump is like always put up high because everybody thought or not thought he was rich. He wasn't a great business owner or anything, but he was rich. And so everybody just dapped him up and act like whatever, and everybody wanted to be around him because even though he was doing some really crazy stuff, he was still getting a lot of us locked up. He was still, even before he was running for president, he was doing racist things. He was sued by a lot of us for things he was doing to us with apartment buildings and stuff like that. He still was getting all this play because nobody cared because he made a bunch of money. And we got to take the L. We got to take the L. On that, I know everybody want W's in the chat all the time. Sometimes we got to take a L. We allowed that, and then allowed him to do whatever and play in our face. And then somebody who was really not of us, they not like us, type person like Oprah, come through later on and doing the stuff she doing. Right? And then he comes on her show and says, "Oh yeah, if I ever ran, I'd run Democrat because the Republicans are crazy and they'll just believe anything." Then later on comes in front of the Republicans and runs and realizes that even if he says that, y'all ain't even gonna do anything. He played both sides. And while he was saying that to Oprah, he's sitting up there with the Central Park Five getting them locked up. Trump used to be in all the lyrics, man, because it didn't matter what he did or what he said. They put these persons over us to rule us, these overseers to rule us, and they have us build up their cities. Verse 13, and those of Kemet made the children of Israel to serve them with rigor. That you better serve us faithfully. You better serve us with a smile. You better serve us vigorously and rigorously. Verse 14, and they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service, wherein they made them serve, was with rigor. It gets deeper tomorrow. I know I went way over time today. We were supposed to stop. Well, actually, today we were supposed to stop at 11:30. We stopped at, I kind of stopped at 11:45. I said I was going to go 15 minutes over. But prayerfully, you guys kind of got where we're going. So this is the introduction to the series. It's going to be a lot more like this, if not even more. There's going to be even more of it. And but it's the truth. If we're dealing with the children of Israel, where we are, Bavakasha, right? If it's going to be tabach, if it's going to be a righteous word, be ready for it to be. Yeah, it's going to be. That's where it's got to start, because that's the energy that we got to keep. Come on. So love you much. I apologize once again. Very windy, it's not stormy, praise God, but the wind, which according to weather wasn't supposed to be here, is here. So it is what it is. We thank you guys though for being on. I appreciate you. Sorry once again about yesterday. Um, the brothers we will be meeting next Saturday. Just the storm throughout the day. It was on, off. But when it was on, it was pretty heavy. I even thought about going outside and recording it so you guys could see literally like the tents were like swaying and stuff. We had praise y'all. I've been getting better at my roping and everything. So we had the tent in the ground where it wasn't shaking everywhere, but it was pretty crazy. So, in Georgia it seemed to be crazy, and Alabama seemed to be crazy, and in Florida it was crazy. I heard some things about Louisiana that seemed to have been crazy. But praying for you guys. Hopefully you guys are doing well. We're gonna actually, I guess it's family day, so we're gonna take a break from getting hands in the dirt and all that stuff, and enjoy the day. We'll be back in front of you guys tomorrow. I'm pretty sure I'm bringing the word. Yeah, I'm bringing the word for early rise of Bible study session. So prayerfully we'll see you 6:30 a.m. New York time or Eastern. After that, we'll see you at 8 a.m. New York City time Eastern, and we'll start at Exodus chapter 1, verse 15. So, Baba Kesha. Did I say shalom, Sister Dawn? I don't think I did. My apologies. My apologies. Please forgive me, sis. Right? And to everybody, Lottie Dottie, everybody, we appreciate you so much. So we'll be on tomorrow. Enjoy yourselves. I'm going to try and rest up some, get a bunch more water up in me, and get a couple things together, get my magnesium level and stuff back up too. But thank you all for being on. Appreciate you. Thank you for dealing with my starting off a little slow. Uh, I was had a little bit of a headache, praise y'all, but it's gotten better. But hopefully you guys are ready. We had another series. Thank you guys again. Appreciate the prayers, the likes, shares, subscriptions, and notification tab, donations, gifts, helping us to do what we do around the world. And let's continue to get it. All right. So wasn't blowing. Well, it is blowing. I've got my tables I normally use. Even with the wind guards, if I had them on the microphones, it wouldn't have worked that well today. So what I did, the last couple times you've seen me. Oh, you talking about just in general? Okay, where you are maybe. My bad. Because it's blowing here, as you can see on me. It's actually blowing quite a bit. But I got my tables that normally I put everything on, and I actually set them up to where they're a block of the wind. So everything around me is windy, but but you shouldn't be hearing too much of it on the devices. That's why when I move slightly, everything fell apart. I'm literally holding everything together at a central point with my left hand. So, but we give all praise and honor once again to the Most High, and thank you all for being on. We appreciate you. I will see you guys later. I'm gonna enjoy my family day. I hope you guys enjoy your day or your family days or whatever it is that you're doing. If you're working, if whatever the case might be, may y'all be with you. Continue to do great, marvelous, majestic, and mighty things. We're gonna talk to you guys very soon tomorrow. And thank you again. We appreciate you so very much. And yeah, just pray for us. We'll pray for you. We'll see you tomorrow. And in the evenings tomorrow, we are gonna start our. We're going to do this time for everybody. We're going to do it in front of you guys. So we'll try to make sure we have the sheets and everything ready to go, where you can see them on TikTok, where you can see them on YouTube, where you can see them maybe even on Facebook. I'm not sure how to do it on there yet, but we'll try to make sure in the evenings, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday evening this week coming up, we'll try to make sure that we have our stuff that we're going to be teaching about what we do at SOC. So you can hear it. We actually have a recording of it before, but I think it's only I don't think you can see everything on there or whatever. I think it's mostly audio. So we'll get that going for you guys. But I thank you all. I appreciate you. Hope you enjoy your day, and and hopefully this is something that helped you to see things differently. And we look forward to talking to you guys. So we're gonna be we finished Revelation. Now we're going into Exodus. So prayerfully you guys are ready to go and get started. Love y'all much. And remember, as always, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in the system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, take care. Shalom. We'll talk with you soon.